Hello, Sam. You're on mute. No, I can't unmute you. You can only unmute yourself. Wait, nope. We have one attendee, Ken Chang. Where are you from, Ken? Hey, John.
Hey, good morning.
Can't hear you. Minneapolis. How's the weather in Minneapolis, Ken? Cold. Hi, Carolina. Carolina, where are you from? I hope you're enjoying coffee like I am.
Cheers.
Cheers. Wait a minute. What are you drinking, John?
It's coffee, but my cup disappears in my background.
Ah, mine too. Cool. Wow.
Space age technology.
Truly. Thank you, Ken. Hey, Ken, would you like to talk with us and appear on camera? I can do that. Okay. Let's see. I'm promoting you to a panelist, so you should appear on our screen. I've never done this before, so bear with me. Oh, that didn't work for some reason. I hope I didn't kick you out. Don't you hate it when that happens, John? Are those new glasses, John?
No, I've had these for a couple of years. I had my contacts in yesterday.
I see. You see, we have Samantha Noble here, kind of lurking, looks like, yeah. I think we kicked Ken out. Really sorry about that, Ken. I think someone said earlier that when I demoted them or promoted them to panelists that they had to sign out and sign back in again. So maybe that's what happened. What a pity. I was looking forward to talking to Ken. So John, who's winning overall in Words with Friends?
I don't know, man. I feel like as of late we've been pretty neck and neck.
I think so too. Hey, there's Ken.
It's my morning. It's what I do to wake up in the morning. I play a series of those, and it's good brain exercise.
All right. Hey Ken, how you doing?
Good. How's it going?
Great. I love your background.
Thanks. I wouldn't sit in that chair there.
Right.
What's the background from?
Pee-wee's Playhouse.
I was going to guess that. John probably already knew that.
Yeah.
So Ken, this is I'm David Sotelo. This is John Lee over here from Microsoft. Adam Prohl from Nordic Click. Matoko Hunt from AJPR, right? Jenny Marvin from Third Door Media, and Sam Noble down there is from Biddable Moments. She's in England, but she doesn't appear to be. I've been chatting with her in the text chat, but I guess she wants to remain silent.
I'm getting my virtual background set.
This is Ken Chang from Minneapolis.
Somebody say Minneapolis?
Yeah.
Yeah. Star Tribune.
Well, hello, neighbor.
No. Hi.
I'm not technically Minneapolis Prior Lake, but it's easier just to say Minneapolis because nobody knows where Prior Lake, Minnesota.
Hey,
that's
there's
awesome.
I want to try to bring Herman Just in. Let's see, Herman, if you can hear, can you type into the chat box and let me know whether you want to join the panel here? And Ken, this is Lisa Ressler down here. She's coming in. and she's from Minneapolis too.
Oh, wow. Small
Yeah.
world.
I know.
That
3 people from Minneapolis.
Minneapolis is dominating this session.
Clearly. Hey, Herman, would you like to join the virtual party here? I can promote you to a panelist, and you can come on camera if you want. And Mike Friedman, do you want to come on camera? Oh, you don't have a cam? Okay. I'm gonna, Herman, you will be, you'll probably be kicked out and have to join back in. So goodbye and hello. And Mike, I don't know why Mike hasn't come in on as a panelist, but. Hi, Melissa.
Good morning.
Are you having breakfast?
I am. It's coffee hour, right?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, folks.
Hello.
Hey, Herman, how are you doing?
I'm good, and you?
Excellent. Where are you in the Netherlands?
No, I'm in South Africa.
South Africa. Okay.
Yes.
Sorry about that. By your last name, I just assumed you were Dutch.
Yes, I am, but South Africa, Afrikaans and Dutch is basically the same thing, but it's 2 different countries.
Gotcha. Well, I would introduce you to everybody, but you can see their names on the screen.
Yes.
Ken, way up at the top of my screen with Pee Wee Herman's background is another attendee from Minneapolis. And Herman, are you the person who couldn't see the video
me.
yesterday? Oh, okay.
That's
Sorry
me.
about that.
That's me. I couldn't log on to the website to register, but I am a member. So I logged on to the panel this morning to my panel, and it just said, "You want to register?" And I said, "Fine."
Gotcha.
So it was fine.
Good. Well, welcome and thank you for being a member. Appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Sure. So I'm sure you have a question for someone here. Personal, PPC, anything you want to know?
Not at the moment. I'll wait and see how the conversation goes, and then
Okay.
we'll take it from there.
Okay. That sounds good. Hey, Jenny, do you have handy, or can you get at some point today the URL for registering for SMX Next?
Yes, I can.
That would be groovy.
Thank you.
That is a word that's underutilized, in my opinion.
Definitely.
I've been bringing back rad.
Brad?
Brad,
I like Brad.
I said, I actually said that to my son who's 8, and he said, "What's that mean?"
I know exactly what you should have responded. You should have said, kind of like gnarly.
Right. I would also throw in like the
term my daughter
northeastern, you know,
uses a lot
wicked.
is, like lit.
Wicked.
Oh, lit. Yeah.
Lit, yeah. She had to explain to me what lit meant. I'm like, so is that good?
Totes. Yeah, that's totes. Totes lit.
Is that good?
Who said wicked?
That was me. That's the
That was you.
northeastern
Well,
iteration.
Of course. And
What was that, John? Wicked?
wicked.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're from New England, that's what you say.
Well, isn't it wicked smart? Or
Wicked smart.
Wicked smart.
wicked cool, wicked smart?
wicked pizza.
Right.
That's
The word wicked is frequently followed by the word pissa. Like Jenny probably said many times over the past 3 months, it's wicked pissa cold.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you say, "That's a wicked pizza." And it can be good or bad. You don't know.
Yeah.
It's interchangeable. You mean anything you want.
Now, Jenny, did you grow up in Maine?
I did. Yep.
But how come you don't have a Maine accent?
Because my parents are from Pittsburgh,
Ah, okay.
but I also don't have a Pittsburgh accent. So
Yeah, you don't.
yeah.
Here's a weird tangent for all of us to discuss. I feel like modern communication technology allows all of us to have this weird shared amalgamate, I don't know, dialect, if you will, here in the States in particular. I forget what they call it, but like the way that TV personalities talk, right? Like that's a trained accent.
Yes.
And I feel like
Yeah.
we have adopted that, but then now like in a business setting, because we're all talking to each other from around everywhere, I feel like that also blends together.
Yep.
And I know I reflect the way other people talk. I pick up weird little
Sure.
isms and words all the time. And so like we're constantly retraining how we talk.
Yeah, there are accents that are disappearing. I heard like the Texas accent. If you talk to people who are younger Texans, they just sound like us. Although I'm told I have a Michigan accent, so
You do.
whatever.
I'll say this much.
Because I'm old.
Like, here in Kentucky, every so often I am just blindsided by accent. Like I'll go days talking to people, even people that grew up here, and they sound just like I do. And then I'll turn a corner and I'm like, wait a minute. What just happened? Because there is a distinct flavor to people that really grew up in the holler, as it were.
Definitely.
Well, I grew up on a farm in southern Minnesota, and so growing up, I just figured everybody else had an accent, not me. I didn't have an accent, and it wasn't until I started traveling in my 20s that I learned that yes, I do have that Minnesota accent. Not quite the Fargo. The Fargo parody, but it's there.
Betcha.
And so I started going to great lengths to mask it, and just having traveled a lot, of course, you're right, John, it kind of blends together a little bit. But if I go back to the town I grew up in and talk to some of the people I knew when I was a kid, it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much for it to come back out.
Yep.
It really doesn't.
Hey, Brad.
Oh yeah,
Hey, morning.
Hey, Brad.
I guess I should change my background, huh? I feel like the odd one out looking up here.
You need to get with the program.
That's the point, Brad. We're trying to make you feel.
You know what? Some of the virtual backgrounds, though, it's weird because, like, when you put your hands up where Dave was holding a book yesterday, you're in nothingness, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes, like,
my coffee cup disappears.
Actually,
my hair.
I was just gonna say, actually, Brad, you should leave it, because you know what? Like any good person who does advertising, the worst thing you want to stand out.
That's right.
There's a whiteboard
worst
full
thing an
of
ad can
paid
do is
search
blend in.
rules. Right, so let's use my whiteboard, which is all bid adjustment rules and maps laid out.
Nice.
All right, I'll
very
be
authentic.
again.
You're serious about this stuff. Hey, Brad, I want you to meet Ken Chang from Minneapolis. He's one of the attendees, and he's joining us from Pee Wee Herman's clubhouse.
Hey, Ken,
awesome.
did you say TV German's Clubhouse?
No, I said Pee Wee Herman's.
Pee Wee Herman's, that makes way more sense. More coffee necessary, right?
Absolutely.
And then we also have Herman Joost from South Africa. You can't see him, but he's listening to us, and he can talk with us if he wants. But,
Hello. Yes.
Hello.
Again.
Are you originally from South Africa, or yes or no?
Yes, I am. I was born here. Yes, I am.
Okay.
When I started, the fun thing is, when I started PPC, I was one of the very first people to start PPC for small to medium-sized companies. The only people that did PPC in South Africa when I started it was Coca-Cola and Pepsi and Toyota and the big firms, the big guys.
Wow.
So no PPC for small guys or medium-sized companies.
So you
That's
were
how long I've been,
pioneer.
Yes. Back then, you still had to do PPC the old way. You know, you had lots of keywords. There was no help from Google. There wasn't even a helpline. How's that?
Wow.
There wasn't even a helpline available.
Kind of like today.
Somehow that seems the same, right?
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah. So it's gone full circle, sort of.
Yes.
Yeah.
So did you? I think I can say that one of the reasons I like being involved with the Paid Search Association is that I get to hang out with my friends and people that I learned from when I was learning PPC. So let's see, who did I learn from here? Definitely Brad, definitely John, and I'm still learning from everybody, especially Ginny, because she puts together a great newsletter and great articles.
I must definitely sign up for that newsletter.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's excellent.
Definitely.
Lisa, what are you drinking? Coffee? You're muted.
Coffee.
Coffee.
I just refreshed it.
Okay.
Waking up.
Hey,
Waking up.
Lisa, by the way, are we going to get a brief cameo from your son again today? That was awesome yesterday.
I can call him anytime. He's we already did homeschooling. We already did one lesson, and now he's playing Xbox. He's super excited about that.
Nice.
So I bribe him with Xbox to get.
I'm jealous. I would rather be playing Xbox right now.
Yeah.
Me too. I don't have an Xbox, so feel free to donate.
Well, you're a cool mom then.
So we'll have to get the Microsoft people on that.
That's right.
That's it. Yeah.
I don't have budget to be giving away Xboxes. Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't have budget for anything,
Give it time.
really.
Give it time. Give it time.
So what was it? But Microsoft ran the one Bing Ads Next conference a few years ago where they gave everybody an Xbox.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that was
I have
my
one.
first Xbox. I gave that one away to a friend of
I
mine.
have two.
Yeah, that was my second one. So my daughter got one. She was quite
Yeah.
happy to have her own Xbox.
Nice. Hey, John, what does your T-shirt say?
Oh, it doesn't say anything, but it's the kind of the four pillars of Xbox, or not Xbox, of Microsoft, where you got Windows, Office, Xbox, and Bing, and then it's a direwolf with Ninja Cat riding it. So Ninja Cat's kind of a de facto, what would you call that?
Mascot.
Mascot.
Thank you, mascot. Somebody, I forget what the story was. It was like an accessibility thing, and somebody decided to create this little critter, and it really took off. So like you can get stickers of this. There's like one of them riding a dragon, like a gorilla. I mean, it's all kinds of just bonkers banana stuff. It's fun.
Nice.
I have
Lisa,
my assistant.
Can you introduce
Hey,
him?
there he is.
Tell him who you are.
I'm Giovanni Cellino.
Nice.
Hi.
Hi, Giovanni. You've grown.
Yeah, what are you, 12, 13 years old now?
He's grown.
8?
8.
Ah, very nice. You know, in some countries, that's not polite.
This one, it's fine.
Yeah.
We're good. We're good.
Good.
That was
We're
cute.
fine. You're not busted here. Excuse me for a second. I have to go refill my coffee cup with a Bloody Mary.
Do it again.
Good luck today with your conference.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cute. Bye.
Oh, John, did you figure out all the stuff you needed for your RSA things?
It's I mean, it's an ongoing discovery, but yeah, I mean, I got really excited when I saw your post. I was like, oh man, did he dive in to the Microsoft data? Because I see our data, right? I know what's happening on our side. You and I have talked about that, right? And it contradicts what's happening on the Google side. But I was just hoping for some, a third party verification, somebody that's also got a bunch of data.
No,
Brad,
we haven't.
Brad, John and I both gave you a plug yesterday, so I'll send you a
plug.
bill for the the paid
Oh,
reimbursement.
thank you. Love it. And Melissa, what are you doing these days?
I'm working, man. I'm just not traveling, but I'm working. I love these virtual conferences. I can see everybody again. It's awesome.
It's nice. It's been,
That's my first
years
one.
since we've seen you in person.
It's been years. It's 2016 was the
That
last.
that was in Seattle, right? At Microsoft
Yeah.
event?
Yep. It was advanced. Yep. So
Oh, was it advanced, not Bing Ads Next?
actually the Bing Ads Next might have been after that.
Okay.
Because I think there were, I went to both. Yeah, the Bing Ads was probably the last one. Yeah, it's been a while.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
You guys are so lucky because South Africa is nowhere. It's in the middle of nowhere. So I can't attend any of these things. So this is kind of weird for me because all of a sudden I'm meeting all these people and it's online, so I can finally do it. But when it's in real life, I can't attend any of them because South Africa is so far away and it's so expensive for me to go. So
every 2 to 3 years, I go to a conference in Nairobi. Nairobi usually has a good conference every year. They started with the Afrotech maybe 10 years ago, and so there's definitely stuff happening in Nairobi. Every few years, there's a good one up in Cairo. So there are some in that region. If you're in South Africa, I mean, Kenya's pretty right next to you.
They're next door neighbors, you know.
Yeah. So I'd look at that because we would go to Nairobi for a conference, then go spend, you know, a week or two on safari. So it's because for us, it's a ridiculous trip. There's no good way to get there, right? So it's a terrible trip getting there.
Yeah,
exactly. But if you look at the exchange rate, the rand-dollar exchange rate, what's it now currently? I think it's 18.
I don't know.
18 rand for $1. It is just out of proportion.
Yeah, and last time we were there, it was oh gosh, I forget whose currency was trading at 1.1 million per $1 and I'm like, how do you look at a price when it's like 2.7 billion, right? And it's really like $27.
Yeah, exactly. It's just mind-boggling.
So it takes like 5 million units to buy a gallon of milk or something, or
yeah, it's just
it makes monopoly money look small.
Yeah. It is absolutely atrocious. Now, I'm fortunate that I have clients in the States. So when they pay me, I smile. But when I have to pay a service that's in the States, I actually cringe. I say, oh, no, I feel it. So it's absolutely mind-boggling. It's just stupid.
And then Ken, you're in Minneapolis?
Yes.
All right. Yes. So are you UM? You a Gopher?
No, from University of North Dakota. Actually.
Okay.
So kind of like where they
you guys win #1 every year in your division of football, right? Like.
Yeah. Hockey too, right?
Yeah, it's total hockey and aviation college.
It'll be a smackdown between him and Marty.
That's right, Duluth. Yeah.
Another good industry friend is a UMD guy, so.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and I probably compete with some of you guys in the Minneapolis market. We run a couple of grocery stores, a couple of hospitals, stuff like that. So
I compete with none of you.
Yeah, Brad's everybody's friend.
Yeah, but you get all the money.
Yeah, we're all paying him.
Hey, I see Andrea Cruz on. Andrea, do you want to be a guest star on our panel here? Do you want to turn on your camera and talk with us?
Pop her in here.
You can type into the chat box, yes or no. Yes, okay. I'm going to promote you to panelist, and you might get kicked out. You might have to log back in, but you know how to do that. And then it looks like Bhavna. Bhavna, where are you located right now? Hey, Andrea, that was fast.
You know, it's the speed of light. How are you guys doing? I see a lot of familiar faces.
That's
How
right.
Are you guys?
Yeah, welcome.
Andrea, where are you calling in from?
Massachusetts.
Okay.
Where in Massachusetts?
I live in Everett.
That's right.
Very close to Boston.
Sure.
Yeah.
You don't have a Boston accent, though.
Yeah. I'm from Venezuela.
Ah, lovely.
Yeah.
But a question for you. You may have missed the beginning of our conversation. Have you picked up on Wicked Smart? Have you picked up on
No, that's
yet?
awful.
Okay, all right.
He wants to do that.
Ginny, I forget, what was that saying you gave? The wicked
Pissa.
It's awful.
It is kind of colloquial, isn't it?
I'll cling on to my y'all.
I've got a quick team status meeting, and then I'll be calling back in.
Okay.
Probably around like 1:15. So.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Jenny.
Bye.
Bye, Jenny.
See you soon. Hey, Bhavna, would you like to join the discussion here with the camera or not camera? Or just talk with us. You can type in. Oh, you know where the chat box is because you typed in. Herman, it's another person from South Africa.
Yeah, Bhavna.
Yep. Okay. Bhavna, I'm going to promote you to panelist. You might get kicked out, but then just come back in, please.
So
And I see.
David,
Yes.
I think that you guys should make blue backgrounds for people with gray hair and white backgrounds for people with dark hair. Your head keeps disappearing, right? Because your hair's the same color as your background. So suddenly, like, I've got half of a David face and there's no brain, right?
I was just thinking the same thing. I was just thinking the same thing.
That's hilarious.
It's all about the presentation style.
So funny. People with blue hair need all white.
Okay.
He has had half an arm the whole time.
That too.
Come on, your paid search people. Color optimization is an important part of publisher, right? You know,
Whatever.
Right?
Whatever.
It's only for display ads.
Let's welcome Bhavna Baskali from South Africa. Hi, Bhavna.
Hello, Bhavna.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you.
You too.
Hi.
Herman Joost is another attendee joining us, and he's from South Africa as well.
Hello.
Hi. Where
So at
about in
least
South
I'm not
Africa are you
alone.
from?
Yeah, I'm from Joburg.
Okay, cool. I'm in Cape Town.
Okay. So we're sort of neighbors, but not quite.
About 2 hours away.
Exactly.
Bhavna, what do you do in South Africa, in Cape Town?
I am a PPC media manager for a gambling and casino company.
Oh, okay. Which company?
It's called DOS, DOS.
Okay, I'm not familiar with them. I was in that industry many years ago.
Really? How did you find it?
It was crazy.
Was that the company in Israel?
No, it was way before that even. It was
okay.
in 2006.
All right.
I actually had a friend who owned a online gaming platform company, and he hired me to be the virtual CMO. So I got to travel to all of these crazy conferences all over the world, and Malta and Barcelona and etc. And all of the attendees were these young people, younger than I was at the time. And they were all filthy rich, and they partied like mad. So anyway, how could they do that? They had a lot of money. They basically started all of the early casino companies and sports betting companies and platform companies, and they were first in, and they made a lot of money.
Do they want to adopt me, David?
I want to also be adopted. You know?
Yeah. Let's go. We'll be brothers and sisters now for this new.
Nice.
We're all like
Exactly.
potty
Sounds
trained.
good to
Everything.
Very nice. Hey,
Hi.
Bhavna, where are you from originally?
Durban, South Africa.
Okay. But your name is not South African.
I'm an Indian.
Okay.
So name and surname, but I was born and brought up in South Africa.
Okay, gotcha. Nice.
Now, tell me this. Tell me this. Sorry. Tell me this. The gambling industry in Google, it's hard to get into because I tried it a couple of years ago and Google just kept stonewalling me. So I didn't know it's still a thing. I don't know if it's still a thing.
It depends. So if you have a license in the regulated market, then yes, you have your options with Google. But I think the most successful advertising for gambling is affiliate marketing.
Okay. I just thought it was a very hard industry to crack.
It's extremely difficult. It's a lot of time spent on researching methods on how to get into the industry, how to get players. It's a tough one. What clients do you have on your end?
No, it's all, I've got B2B clients. All of my
Oh,
clients are
that's lucky.
B2B. So yeah, no, the other industry, funnily enough, that one of the people in South Africa is taking off now is Bitcoin. But Google didn't love me very much with trying to. I needed to jump through all loops, and there was all sorts of hurdles and loops I had to jump through. So I said to the client, look, if you got the deep pockets, I'll do it. If you don't have the deep pockets, it's not worth doing it. So yeah, it was all sorts of restrictions and all sorts of things. So
yes, they
and
make
with
you
Google's
jump through quite a few hoops.
and with Google's new policy where they can't review your stuff and automatically okay it, it's hard. Going through the review process is a nightmare. It is really tough. Yeah.
It is.
So
I don't find the Google help very helpful.
no, they are such idiots. Excuse my French. I put the phone down on them about 10 times, and I don't phone them anymore because, first of all, when I speak very fast, and then I speak to the guy, the lady or says, "Excuse me," and the third time she says, "Excuse me," I just lose my cool.
Don't worry, it happens to me as well. I think it's a South African thing. We talk very quick.
Then, you know what the most irritating thing is? When I say hi to them, I say, okay, listen carefully. My name is this. My address, my email address is this. This is my number and everything else. And as soon as I say that, they say to me, okay, what is your name? What is your email address? And I say, I just gave it to you. What don't you?
Okay, so you guys want to know the trick to dealing with this where you're based, right?
Okay.
So $1.99 a month is a Skype number. Google Voice number, you register in the US or UK. Google does their initial call routing based on countries. So if you ignore the CID and you don't type in your CID to go to general helpline, right? If you're in the US, you generally get routed into Mountain View. You could get an overflow into India. If you're in UK, you get routed into Dublin. Those are the two best help centers. It's when you hit the overflow markets. So if you ignore the CID and do a call routing via any free voice system, right? It doesn't matter what it is. Out of those countries, you get better initial help.
That's true.
Oh, maybe you should connect with me and send me an email about that, because I'll definitely use that method, because Indian guys, excuse me, they're driving me insane. They just, oh.
Well, I have another tip, which is
ouch,
I never
ouch as an Indian person, but anyway.
Right.
Excuse me, it's
I have another tip, which is I never ever call them. I always use chat, because you can't misinterpret when someone types in, the email address, for example.
Yeah.
And also,
the funny thing is,
what if it's a complicated thing, David?
It doesn't matter. It always works better for me.
I started using the chat because David gave me that tip, and there's no wait.
Exactly.
It's faster for quick things, but what if it's a policy issue and there's multiple levels of explaining?
I don't know. It's always worked better for me. Just I have zero patience for being on hold on a telephone call.
I've never used the chat.
With chat,
I never have issues.
Okay, well, that's because you're Brad Geddes.
No, I mean, I didn't know that was a problem these days.
Well, what about the fact if you have premium agency support, you call them and then they tell you, oh, that's not with us. You need to call regular support.
Right.
It's like, then what's your point?
Exactly. I had my previous manager, I asked him a question and I said, no, you have to go through the regular helpline. And I said, but why have I got you? You're supposed to solve my issues as an agency, and then you're putting me through to the regular guys. What's the point?
Yep.
So I'll speak from the Microsoft advertising perspective. I mean, there is a difference between an account rep and a support person, right? So your account reps are relationship holders and information transfers, and often they will have answers, but they won't always have answers. And you've got actual support people that are technical managers on the back end that do know the technical answers. Now, in a typical relationship, those account reps will be going to the support people on your behalf, getting answers, and sometimes putting you directly in contact, but handling that for you. But just know that there is a difference, right? Sometimes your account reps aren't going to have the answer, and they will have to seek it out. But I have been hearing from the Google side that there's been some, that's great, call this number, which does not sound like a good experience.
It's also true. It's also true that the Microsoft reps actually give a shit. But
thank you.
I have an impression that I do of a Google account rep, usually one that has just graduated from with their MBA from Stanford, and it kind of goes like this. I don't know, man. That's it. It's like no impetus to actually solve the problem. It's like, wow, that's a tough
I have pages and pages worth of
against
stories from my agency days, and since this is being recorded, I won't share them. But I mean, just suffice to say that I got very tired of every 6 months having to train people on what was happening in my accounts. Right?
Yep.
But
very frustrating.
Ridiculous.
And not like the business side of it, but like literally, this is what a campaign does, and this is what
but
this
does. You
That's
know what
insane.
gets me? Now, you know what gets me? Now, I might be the only guy with this problem. When you speak to your Google rep, they don't actually listen to your actual problem. They try and sell you this other solution, which is not what I asked for in the first place.
Right.
And then they go on to dispute and say, this will be better. And I said, but you didn't solve my problem. I phoned in oh yeah, we'll get to that. It's just crazy.
It is.
Oh.
Hey, I need to break in because we have another guest that hasn't been introduced, which is Brett Bodofsky. Hi, Brett. How you doing?
Hey there. I'm doing great. Hope the same for you guys.
Yeah. Now, I recognize your name, and I can't remember from where. You've written some stuff that's been published where?
I don't know that anything's been published anywhere, but I do. There is something on the Paid Search Association website currently. I had one, the Why I Love Paid Search.
Oh, that's right.
Contest.
That's right.
Yeah.
He's on Twitter too, right, Brett? I'm
on Twitter as well. That's correct.
Anybody who's anybody's on Twitter.
That's right.
So I must be nobody because I'm not on Twitter.
Sorry. Didn't mean offense.
Join us.
It's to your markets there, John. You leave the U.S. and Twitter usage declines real fast.
That does not surprise me.
That's true.
I remember in Germany, we were like, oh, let's get some tweets. And I'm like, no one uses Twitter here. So like, oh. I am obsessed with Twitter, so I don't know how people survive without it.
I didn't really use it until PPC chat came about, and I realized that was a thing. So I was like, I need to get in on this.
Insider tip here, though, Reddit is A, amazing, B, really weird, but C, there's actually some really good information being transferred anonymously. And so people are pretty open in ways they aren't in other channels. And so definitely, there you go. Little R PPC, and it's not just like account stuff, campaign stuff, but sometimes it's also like salary and just talking about like, how the heck am I supposed to find a job kind of thing. And so like for people that are, looking to make a move in their career, it's actually a pretty interesting place to ask questions and get answers.
Yeah. And it is kind of snarky and fun.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, that's one way to put it. Yep.
John, why isn't Skype on your Microsoft flag?
Skype? That's a really great question for somebody way above my pay grade or Perni's.
Because our agency would love to help you with Skype.
Oh, it's Teams now. We're pushing
we have
everyone
Teams.
to
That's the business product. Yeah.
But isn't that just part of Office now? So it's encompassed by the Office logo.
There's no such thing as Office anymore. It's Microsoft 365.
365. Yeah, it's a whole branding problem.
Yeah,
it's always going to
It's,
be
Well-
it's switching branding every 3 months.
Yeah, I agreed. It's hard for us to keep track too. I would say that the Office logo is now the Microsoft 365 logo, right? It's like that's a transferable logic, but Perna, you called it out, right? Teams is like the go-to, but it's really that's business focused. Skype very much is active. I personally have been using Skype to do video chats with my mom. And again, it is holding up well. And I think that I've seen a few, like if we think about what's happening with COVID and how everybody's using video chat, or not everybody, but a lot of people using video chat in a much bigger way, that like Skype is still there and usage has spiked, but like nobody's talking about it.
All right. Hey, we've just been joined by Aaron Levy. Hi, Darren. What's going on?
Aaron!
Aaron.
You're not wearing your billboard. That's a really old joke. Really, really old joke.
Yep.
Where do you live, Aaron?
Philly.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have a very nice weather now. It's like warm and windows are open and stuff.
Finally, huh?
Nice.
Just in time for my neighbors to start doing construction very loudly. Win some, lose some.
Hey, Brett, where do you live?
I also live in Philly, so
Oh, no kidding.
me and Aaron could be neighbors. Who knows?
Are you doing
Philly
construction?
too.
Yep, Perna's there too.
I'm not doing construction, no.
Okay, good.
All right, so I might need to put a Penguins logo behind me then for the rest of this call.
Penguins. Wow.
I have a question for John.
Go.
John, so Microsoft 360 includes Xbox.
No.
Well, okay.
It's Microsoft 365.
Correct.
365.
Yeah.
Includes Xbox. And
Nope.
if I pay, so where do I find out more about this? Because I am paying for some sort of Xbox.
Yeah.
Paying for Xbox
Yeah.
Live,
Old.
which is not part of
Yeah,
Office. It's
completely
its
separate.
own thing.
But they sent me an email that says I'm part of Microsoft 365 now, and then
Yeah, but that would be related to like email, Office, right? The traditional applications, all of that. That's not gonna. Xbox is its own thing, and probably makes way more money than Office.
I have to admit I'm really confused by Xbox, and I think partially because just the communications on it is confusing, but also I grew up in the time of Atari.
Yep.
It was so much simpler.
I gave my Xbox. I have got two Xboxes. I gave them to each of my children because it's beyond me. I could do the Wii, but I couldn't do Xbox.
I literally live off of mine. Like,
Isn't that funny?
Well, like
I'm too old.
It makes a way better smart TV than actual smart TVs do.
Yep.
So like smart TVs are terrible, but using an Xbox or a PlayStation is faster, better, looks better, sounds better. It gets kind of warm and it's probably going to set my living room on fire soon. But until then, I love it.
But you're gonna have fun.
Roku's way smarter than my smart TVs are.
Hey, Aaron,
Mhm.
can you send me some basic info on that for the old people?
Yeah.
I would love that because I have it hooked up to a really old TV, and that would be awesome to use.
There's
that.
these lovely things called applications, and then you put them in the I'll send you some stuff.
Yeah, Netflix, Hulu, HBO. I mean, all of them. Any of the streaming services. I mean, Disney Plus. All of them have beautiful apps that function perfectly fine on Xbox.
That's what my daughter uses it for. She doesn't play any games. She just streams TV.
And also a shout out for Game Pass. If you're not a subscriber, I recommend doing so. If you're only on the Xbox platform, $9.99 a month, access to a ton of games and all Microsoft exclusives land there on day one. And if you also play games on the PC, I recommend getting Ultimate because then it's both platform and games on your computer. I promise I don't get any commission on that, but it's well worth the money.
If you obsess over a game and you play a game for 6 months at a time and never touch something, just buy the game. If you never know what you want to do, you want to wander, then the Game Pass is great. So it's kind of like, would you rather buy a DVD or subscribe to Netflix? Because sometimes, you know, it's, you may obsess over one thing for a long time.
If I didn't have Game Pass, I would be literally broke because of all the games that I have access to and have downloaded. If I had bought them outright, I would have no money.
Then you need a raise.
Yeah, but you work for the company, so you should get them for free.
No, that's not how that works, bud. Sorry. We get a decent discount on hardware and software, but and there are games that we can buy for sure cheaper than you can get them retail, but we don't get anything for free.
Too bad. Hey, we have a bunch of attendees, and I'm not going to invite anybody individually, but if any attendee would like to join the conversation with or without a webcam, go ahead and type to us in the chat box. Know what I'm saying? Perna, are you having a bad hair day?
I am just out of the shower with my hair freshly washed. I can turn on and terrify everyone, but yes.
There she is.
Hello for terrifying everyone. So, yeah.
Look great. Come
Not
on.
terrifying at all.
Oh, you're so
awesome.
nice.
Wonderful.
Exactly. Very kind. I'm like, oh.
You're speaking in a little while, aren't you?
I'm speaking tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow, okay.
On PSAC, but yes, I do have another meeting later on that I do need to put on makeup for. So I'm like, right now, it's
I thought you were
PJs.
starting to get ready for us today.
I have to do my hair the day before for you, David, tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
So yeah,
Nice. Very nice.
I won't get it.
What are you speaking on tomorrow?
I'm talking about DSA, like some really cool tips about page feeds and
Nice.
a layering technique for audiences on page feeds. And I'm going to talk about a cool new beta that we have at Microsoft Advertising as well.
I gave Perna the nice soft tee up in my presentation yesterday.
Yeah, you did.
Thank you, Jolie.
Yeah, he does that. You call him Joe Lee like his email address?
Yeah. Well,
Yes, exactly.
And Microsoft was so stingy they couldn't give me an N. So it's JOHLEE is my email alias.
Nice. Very nice.
But yeah, no, that since day one, Perna has called me Joe Lee because of that, and it's stuck.
It's the coolest alias. There's another one of my colleagues who's like Lawrence something, and her alias is like La Poli, and I'm like, this is the coolest thing. Like, I'm never calling you Lauren again. I'm going to call you La Poli, which is so nice.
Beautiful. That sounds great.
Well, no, our teammate Emily, her name is Emily German, and her alias cracked me up the first time. I was like, okay, every time I look at that, I'm going to read it as Eagerman. It's just like it made a new weirdly spelled word.
Hey, Melissa, what are you speaking on today?
I am speaking on B2B advertising in a COVID-19 world.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So David, these are getting recorded, right?
Yes.
When do the recordings go live?
They go live when I can find somebody to edit them.
Do you need to edit ones like Melissa's, though, or are they just going to go live? So I have a meeting the same time Melissa's speaking, and I want to see hers.
Oh, you will.
Right?
I'll be able to.
So
yeah,
that's where I'm like, all right, so how do I get Melissa's? Because I want to watch Melissa's recording of this, but I can't do it live. So when can I see it?
I'm thinking next week I can find /strong arm somebody into editing and posting the video.
I might be able to help with the editing part as long as we're not talking about like intricate cutting out ums and uhs, but like just, you know, if you can take the bulk chunks of it and doing it, I could totally do that. And then bequeath it on to whoever will post them.
That'd be great. Did someone just say I'll post them?
No, I said, oh, John. Like so nice
John.
of him.
John. Right. Okay, I will reach out to you, John.
Hey, I've got the software, and that part's easy. Just don't ask me to do like micro edits and make it look fancy. That is not in my skill set.
And David, are these going to be open to everyone?
That's a good question. I was going to poll the board about that because on the one hand, it's free to everybody that wants to attend the live sessions. On the other hand, there's some rationale for putting it behind the PSA /firewall to build the content that we use to reward the members for their membership.
Because the big difference there is going to be, do you want to start doing video hosting versus throw them on YouTube, right? Unlisted with links.
Yeah.
Something to think about.
Yes, it is something to think about. And well, that's going to be like, I think it should be a topic of email discussion next week.
Okay.
David,
Yes.
can someone register today if they want to attend today or if they want to attend tomorrow?
I think so. Hold on, let me check.
Yes, I checked this morning. You can.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
one of my colleagues did.
Oh, okay, great. So then that's something I can tweet about.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Well, I'm jumping off because I have a client meeting. I want to
Okay,
say
Andrea.
thank you, everyone, and a special moment of happiness for me. I have followed Melissa Mackey and John Lin for forever.
Oh,
Since
nice.
I started working on paid searching, I have never seen them, at least
nice.
camera. I've never seen you guys at the HeroConf or any other conference. It was a pleasure, at least putting, the face versus just the Twitter picture.
Likewise.
Indeed.
That's very nice
Bye,
to see
guys.
you.
Take care.
Bye,
Pleasure
Andrea.
meeting
Take
you.
care.
Bye, Andrea.
Adios. Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.
Let me just repeat for the attendees that have come in, we've got about 9 minutes. If you want to jump into our conversation here, either with a webcam or not, just chat with me on the webinar chat. Who's got a joke?
I nominate Aaron.
So no joke, we have a bucket of Laffy Taffy in our office kitchen, and that's the thing that I'm missing the most is really terrible jokes written by 7-year-olds.
Nice. Maybe we could.
I'm cracking open the dad joke app.
Okay.
Check in. Let's see. A bartender broke up with her boyfriend, but he kept asking her for another shot.
Ba-dum-bum.
I had
Did
a
you hear
pun
the
about
one about-
insanity, but then I lost it.
A mushroom walked into a bar, and the bartender said, "We don't serve your kind of honey here." And the mushroom said, "But I'm a fun guy."
Ba-dum-bum.
Why does the man want to buy 9 rackets? Because 10 is too many.
Ha-ha.
Oh, I love that joke.
No shame.
It's this app is a gift that keeps on giving. It literally pings me at 9:30 every night with a new dad joke.
All right,
Wait,
so
what's
we
it
should have
called?
put
I'm downloading
Jameson's
it
in the
now.
coffee.
We should have.
Wait, you didn't?
Let's see. It just looked for like dad joke. There's a bunch of them. Let's see.
I forget the exact. I can make it up as I go along, but it's something like a priest and a rabbit walk into a bar, and the priest says, "Stupid spell check."
Ooh.
Got
Yeah,
You have to.
yeah.
Yeah.
What's a pirate's favorite metric? CTR.
Yes. Yes.
Where does a pirate like to spend their quarantine? In the backyard.
Oh.
Yo ho ho.
Yeah.
This Bloody Mary is damn good.
We all clearly need more humans.
We're going to get started in 7 minutes. I'm going to be over here on my other screen getting teeing up stuff. So, don't
So you
expect
want
me-
us to leave the mod section and rejoin as a regular attendee, so you're not
No.
cluttered up, right?
Not necessarily. I mean, according to what I've read on Zoom, and I think we saw this in the practice session last Friday, when the attendee is seeing a presentation, they only see the presenter. They don't see the other panelists.
It's assuming you believe everything you read online.
Don't we
It
all?
must be true. It must be
On the
true.
internet, it must be true.
Okay, there's Gianpaolo from Bologna. Come va?
Bene, bene, grazie.
Ciao, bello.
Ah,
And we're wicked lucky to have Ginny Marvin back.
Hello, I am back.
Hey, Jenny.
Hi.
Like I said, I'm going to be queuing up the presentation over here.
So we can stay on, David?
Yeah,
as
sure.
Okay.
I think so.
We'll all be muted when the person's presenting?
Yes.
Okay. That's cool. I'll just stay on.
Cool.
In fact, I'm going to share my screen right now.
David, what's the Twitter?
The hashtag?
PSAC20.
No, the handle, the PSA handle.
Paid search org.
Paid search. There we go.
Paid search
Thank
org.
you. Got it.
What do you see on the screen right now?
A flower.
Oh, how nice. Oh, let's see. Let's try this. And now you see.
See presenter mode.
Presenter mode.
And now.
There you go.
Now it's, yep.
Awesome. Wicked. And I can see you guys. Wicked, this is smart. I can see you guys on the right. I'll just move you to my other screen. I love Zoom. Pauline, how are you doing, Pauline? Who else do we have here that I know? Oh, thank you, Jean-Paulo.
I also have to drop to pop to a meeting, but I'm going to be
Okay.
popping in and out to listen to speakers I'm really excited about today.
Great.
Same
Thanks,
like
Aaron.
Aaron.
Cheers,
Break a
Aaron.
leg,
Oh.
everyone, for today. I'm so excited to catch up on the recordings, and I'll be back and forth.
Okay.
See you
Have a
later.
wicked day.
Thanks, Perna.
Bye.
Can someone tell me when it's 10? Oh, there it is. When it's 11, I'm sorry. Just to the panelists, we are not started yet. We're going to start exactly at the top of the hour. We just had the coffee chat that started an hour ago. It was really fun, and if you want to try it, wait till the end of the day on tomorrow. Wow, tomorrow's the last day. Wow. Tomorrow we'll have a happy hour at the end of the conference, at the end of the Q&A.
David, are you doing coffee hour tomorrow morning?
No.
Okay.
No. You could, if if there's popular demand.
It's more, I'm moderating tomorrow, so I just want to
that's
make sure I have the logistics in my head of,
Gotcha.
what's happening, right?
Yeah. You're cool. Hey, Ken, you're welcome to stay with us from a panelist viewpoint if you'd like.
That'd be awesome.
Cool.
Hi, AJ.
Hey, AJ.
How's it going, guys?
Snuck
Don't worry, I'm
on
gonna-
there.
How many
I'll get
steps
out.
do you have in?
So far, 1,800.
Wow.
It is yet early. Don't worry, I'll stop the treadmill when it's actually time to present. Can't have anyone thinking I'm crazy.
Never. Are you speaking first?
Yes.
Are you going to be walking while you're speaking?
No, I'll stop it before that starts.
All right, that's cool. I mean, it would be all right if you wanted to.
The problem is every step kind of jiggles the microphone a little bit. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but there's like a little bit of a springy sound.
Gotcha.
So I did one podcast episode while walking, and my sound editor was like, please don't ever do that again.
Let's see, we've got 48 people so far.
Woo!
Yeah.
The 48 faithful.
Truly. Okay, see you, Brett. Thanks for joining us.
See you guys. Thanks for having me.
Sure. Okay, let's get started. Welcome everybody to day 2 of the Paid Search Association Conference. We are happy you're with us, and I will try to advance the slides. So first of all, thank you. We have guests from all over the world. We know we had a couple from South Africa, and judging by the email addresses and the names of the attendees, it looks like we have plenty of people from outside the US. We're very happy about that because from the very beginning, we have designed the Paid Search Association and the conference itself to be appealing and timely to people outside the US as well as inside. First of all, I want to thank the sponsors who contributed to make this possible. Microsoft Advertising is our biggest sponsor. Thank you, John Lee, Christy, Olson, Perna Vergi, and everyone else that helped us with that. Closed Loop is an agency that is a gold sponsor, and PPC Ad Editor is a tool that is also a gold sponsor. So thank you very much for that. Thanks also to the speakers. We have today, Ginny Marvin from Third Door Media is the moderator. AJ Wilcox, who's at this moment congratulating himself, will be the first speaker. Melissa Mackey, and then Bill Leak, Lisa Meyer, and Andrew Goodman will be joining us for the Q&A at the end of the presentations. Also, thank you to the producers. We have Gianpaolo LaRusso. I think you can see him on screen. The impresario behind AdWorld Experience, the biggest PPC show in Europe. One of the biggest in the world, certainly. Lisa Ressler, who's handled marketing. Mike Friedman, who has handled lots of things. And me, who shall share the blame if things go wrong. One thing we want to really highlight is that, we came up with the idea for this virtual conference because of the fact that so many people, speakers and attendees are missing their usual sources of PPC information. So these usual sources of information are in various stages of being hurt by the COVID-19 pandemic, as lots of the rest of us are. So we encourage you to please attend their conferences when they are rescheduled. Ginny, when she comes on, will repost the link to SMX Next, which is a virtual conference coming up soon. Gianpaolo's AdWorld Experience has been rescheduled to October, right, Gianpaolo? And then PubCon is kind of in limbo.
Yes,
we don't
exactly.
know. Okay. PubCon is in limbo. We don't know when they'll reschedule, but please do attend these conferences when they come back in real life, because they need us and we need them. Now, for the people that are attending this conference, we encourage you to, if you're not already a member of the Paid Search Association, join the association. It's pretty affordable to begin with, but we're giving you for the course of this conference 20% off the membership fee if you use the code PSAC20. Now, if you have a question during the conference, a question that you would like a speaker or panelist to answer, please use the Q&A mechanism, which is down at the bottom. You can get to by hovering down at the bottom of your screen, and the Q&A box will open up. Now, Christian just asked a question from Barcelona. And that is whether we're going to open up the chat for panelists today. I'm sorry, to attendees today. And I'm going to make a snap decision, which is that we should open up the chat to attendees today. Let's try it today. Yesterday we restricted the use of the chat to panelists so that we could communicate about things that were possibly going wrong, or messages that we wanted to exchange. But let's leave it open to everybody, and panelists and speakers. If you want to chat with just panelists or speakers, you can choose to do that by clicking the down arrow. Jenny has just posted the Third Door Media SMX Next link. It's going to be occurring June 23rd and 24th, so please attend them. And that is it. I am going to stop my presentation. I'm going to stop sharing, and we're going to turn the podium over to Ginny Marvin, who will be the moderator all day today.
All right, thanks so much, David. Welcome, everyone. I am so excited about this. This is a great day, and if you tuned in yesterday, I've already learned a lot, and we have a full day, well, full few hours here scheduled with some of the best people in the industry. So I'm really thrilled to be a part of this. And as David mentioned, I'm Search Engine Land's editor-in-chief. And yep, we'll be hosting SMX Next as a virtual. So these are just so great to be able to make these connections while we can't do it physically, at least be able to do it virtually. So without further ado, I'm going to kick things off. We've got AJ Wilcox, founder of LinkedIn ads agency, B2 Linked. He's already logged in. We're coming up on 2,000 steps this morning on his treadmill. And so without further ado, why don't you kick things off, AJ?
Awesome. Well, thanks, Jenny. I just barely signed up for SMX Next as you were introducing, so it doesn't take very long. People join on in. Really excited to chat about LinkedIn ads with you. Now, I realize that most of you are in this COVID-affected environment right now, and so I'll definitely include a little bit of conversation towards the end. But the goal of this is really just in case you haven't run LinkedIn ads before, or if you are, but maybe you're at those beginning stages of just trying to understand how the platform works. That's really the goal here, but I'll make sure that we educate you nicely on what's happening right now in the platform with COVID. So a little bit about me. I stumbled onto LinkedIn ads about 9 years ago and totally fell in love with it not because the platform is especially user-friendly or great in any way, but because my sales reps kept coming up to me and saying, AJ, we absolutely love your leads. We're fighting over them over here. Keep it up. And anyone who's ever worked with sales reps, well, I mean, I haven't heard that since. So, that's pretty special. But I live in the state of Utah in the United States with my wife and 4 kids, all homeschooling right now, going a little bit stir crazy. But my background is in search with SEO and Google ads before that. So the reasons you might look into LinkedIn ads if you're already running, let's say Facebook ads and or Google ads, if you're using search channels and you've maxed out your search volume, there just aren't more people searching for what your product or category is, and you need to fill the top of that funnel, LinkedIn ads is probably a really good way to do that. Works especially well with these disruptive products and services where the category isn't created yet. People don't know that you exist, and you need to let these cold audiences know. And then on the Facebook side, a lot of times your sales reps will complain about the lead quality, especially after you get past the custom audiences and the lookalikes. And retargeting, as soon as you get past that, you start broadening into interests, and you end up spraying pretty wide. And of course, the cost per click and conversion is going to be lower, but your lead quality is going to take a hit as well. And then also, if you've just hit the limits of scale there where you just need something more, LinkedIn ads is definitely worth considering. There's some fantastic things about it, and of course, some not so fantastic things about it. Number one, the reason why we use LinkedIn and we pay their prices and put up with them is they have the best business targeting of any platform out there, and it's at near perfect scale. especially here in North America, we've got access to like 95% of white collar professionals on LinkedIn. So it's very rare when you have a budget larger than you can actually spend on the size of audience who is willing to click on your ads on LinkedIn. And then we, of course, like to keep our profiles up to date. I like to joke that LinkedIn is the second person to know when I make a career shift after my wife. I tell my wife first, and then I go and update my LinkedIn. And because of that, I'm not, advertisers aren't wasting impressions on me because I forgot to update my job title, 6 months ago or a year ago. When someone's on the platform, they're in the right business mentality. They're thinking about their job or their career. And so when you're giving someone something that feeds that, then they're going to have higher conversion rates and better lead quality. And then finally, when we've studied several times the interplay of each of the different ad channels and marketing channels, we find that LinkedIn always closes the largest deal sizes. And if you want deals to close fast, Google Ads always closes the deals the quickest. But the large deals, the ones that you're going to be so proud to put the logo on your website, those are the ones that LinkedIn drives. Now, certainly it's not all sunshine and rainbows for LinkedIn advertisers. Number one, the costs are high. Here in North America, we pay $8 to $11 a click. It's significantly cheaper outside of the English language and outside of North America. But that's really the rub here in the US. We also can't do device level bidding. I'm not sure if that's even on the roadmap. LinkedIn's been kind of kicking against that. We don't have ad scheduling. So we're actually building a tool to help people do day parting and ad scheduling because LinkedIn doesn't offer it themselves. So if anyone who's listening is interested in being a part of our day parting beta, let us know that this is the ability to say, I only want my ads running between these business hours or on certain days. And then finally, many of you will be familiar with Google Ads quality score, Facebook Ads relevance score. LinkedIn has the same kind of thing that they call relevancy score. They just don't show it to you. You can run a report at the campaign level and see a number 0 to 10, but they don't tell you how often it's updated or what that is at the ad level. So these are certainly my wishes for LinkedIn. I wish it were less expensive. That doesn't seem to be happening, but I wish they would add additional features for us. So because the costs are so high, we wonder, okay, who is the right kind of person or company to consider LinkedIn ads? And what we find is if you're in business-to-business lead generation, and when you close a deal, it's worth $10,000 or $15,000 or more, then LinkedIn ads is a no-brainer. It's really uncommon when our clients spend more than $1,000 to $4,000 in ad spend in order to close a deal. So if you're going to make $15,000 when someone closes, plenty of meat on the bone to compensate a sales rep and to pay an agency and to pay for that ad spend. The next is if you're trying to hire someone, a white collar professional for your company, it's a really straight offer to say, hey, we're trying to hire a new sales manager. So let's target the job title of sales manager in our area already, and then just show them ads that say, you look qualified, do you want to apply? And you end up getting these really solid passive candidates. And then finally, higher ed does really well. A lot of MBA programs advertising to people who already have a degree but don't yet have a more advanced degree. Any sort of social advertising that I do, I like to picture this acronym. It's the 3 things that you need for any sort of social ad. And I talk about bringing your ammo to social advertising. That is, you need an audience to target, you need a message to show them, and an offer to give them as your call to action. So we'll briefly touch on each of these elements as it pertains to LinkedIn ads. The first here is in the messaging. These are the ad formats that you can use. The vast majority of advertisers, I say 95% of advertisers should start here. This is in the news feed, the ads that show up, which is the homepage experience on LinkedIn for both desktop and mobile. There's this content called sponsored content. It comes in several different flavors, but the one that you want to start with is single image sponsored content because it's the simplest to build, simplest to troubleshoot, and simplest to get analytics from. Expect a click-through rate, anything over 0.4% is technically above average, so just a little bit less than 0.5%, but most of the stuff we launch gets between 0.8 to 1.2%. So keep that in mind benchmark-wise. And these are a really versatile ad format. You'll expect to pay $8 to $11 if you're targeting North America per each click. If you're higher than that, then you're probably bidding wrong or going after a super competitive audience. And it's just a really good middle ground ad format. Then you've got text ads that are over in the right rail, and they look like this. They're small on the screen because they're small in real life. I told you on sponsored content, you can expect click-through rates that are a little bit less than 0.5%. The average click-through rate on these is 0.025%. So that's 2.5 people clicking out of every 10,000 times these ads are shown. So in order to spend any sort of money here, you really do need a large audience. I think this is actually really good, though. I use this as a companion ad format because it gets clicked on so little that it becomes a lot of free branding. And when someone clicks, it's actually the cheapest ad format. So very low risk because it can't spend a whole lot. And when it does, it's really efficient. So I like text ads. Sometimes they can be more work to put together than they're worth. But if you're okay building a campaign, a whole structure and targeting out that spends a few dollars a day or something, then these are definitely for you. All of the traffic from these come from desktop because the right rail is not available on mobile. Then they have sponsored messaging. Now this is where, not like the other ad formats where you pay when someone clicks, sponsored messaging, you pay to send it to someone's messaging box. And these are the highest risk ad format, oftentimes the most expensive. We see average costs per click in the $23 to $58 range. So it takes a really special kind of offer. I like to think of it, if I were to get one of these messages as a cold email, would I be excited about it? If yes, this is a good ad format for you. If you wouldn't be excited about it, you'd call it promotional and mark it as spam, then don't send it because this will be really, really expensive. Then you have LinkedIn's creepiest ad format that they actually stick your picture in the ad itself. These are also over on the right rail. They actually replace a text ad unit. I didn't used to recommend these, but LinkedIn cut the prices on them to about 1/3 of where they were. So now you can get costs per click that are lower than sponsored content. So I started recommending these a little bit more. And they can be used nicely for campaigns to get people to follow your company page. Then we have lead gen form ads. So anyone familiar with Facebook's lead ads, this is the same type of solution where someone can convert on your ad without ever leaving the LinkedIn experience. It leads to 10 to 50% higher conversion rates. In select occasions, especially if you have a bad landing page, we've seen these convert at 2x to 3x higher than what your landing page was. So they are great from a conversion standpoint. But be aware that this traffic, because it doesn't ever land on your website, you can't track it with UTM parameters. You can't retarget it with your Google and Facebook, which I really love to do. And because it asked so little of the user, they didn't have to go to your website and wait for it to load and check out your team before they decided if they wanted to submit the form. And because LinkedIn autofills everything they know about you, and all the prospect has to do is say, yes, that looks interesting, submit, you will tend to see lower lead quality. So what I tell people is if your cost per lead goes down by 50%, but your lead quality only goes down by 30%, you're still 20% ahead. And so it makes these worthwhile to try. About 60% of our clients use these exclusively, and they can be attached to any sort of sponsored content, so in the feed ad, and they can be attached to any sort of messaging ad. Of course, you don't want to go in every single day and manually download a CSV of all of your leads for the day and get emails out to these people late. You'll want to use one of their integrations. If you happen to have Eloqua, Marketo, Salesforce, HubSpot, and a few other notably enterprise level softwares, if you happen to have those, there's a native integration. But if you don't, Zapier.com has a $20 a month on their $20 a month plan. You can pipe your leads from here directly into pretty much any system that you have. We also have video ads. I don't recommend these, at least not yet. They don't have retargeting like you can get on YouTube or Facebook, where if someone's watched a certain percentage of your video, you can show to them again. So I feel like it's a little bit of a waste. And it's also 10 to 20 times more expensive than Facebook ads for video. So I don't recommend them for LinkedIn unless you have amazing video creative. And then there's carousel ads, blatantly ripped off from Facebook. Every time that you create an ad here, you have to essentially create 3, 4, or 5 ads within a single one. So it's a lot more work to create. And we're not rewarded by better performance. We're not seeing terribly higher click-through rates or much lower of costs. So I just say, don't use it unless you have a really specific need to have lots of little tiles and choices for the user. When you are creating any sort of ad on LinkedIn, realize that these people are in a hurry. They are on their way to do something. They're not there to necessarily consume like they might be on Facebook. So get straight to the point. You start with everyone's favorite radio station, WIIFM, what's in it for me? So you give the value to them first off, and then you give them a strong call to action. And get through it quick. Don't use a lot of flowery language or wax poetic, and keep it, the intro text we get on sponsored content, they allow you 150 characters before it truncates. We try to keep under 130 when possible. And then imagery. A lot of people try to convert people with the image. They'll put all kinds of text up and let people know the date and the time and the location and their logo. Don't worry about that. The image's whole job is just to get someone to stop scrolling so that they read your ad copy. So make sure that it's visually interesting to look at so people will stop. And something that helps here is making sure that it contrasts in color. So LinkedIn is very blues, grays, and whites. Opposite on the color wheel of blue is orange. So try to use orange accent colors or brand colors whenever possible. Saturate in greens and reds whenever possible as well. So I'll show you an example of a really high performing ad. This actually kind of breaks the rules on a few of my suggestions, but we tested into this to make sure we could thoughtfully break the rules. So intros, we like to keep under 130 characters. This actually goes to about 150, so it still doesn't get truncated with a ... see more. But you can see we lead with why you should pay attention. So we analyzed over 18 million sales emails and found the 6 best practices that will increase your open rates today. So that's the why you should pay attention. We have research no one else does. We're going to make you better at your job in sales. And then click to download the new infographic. So that's our strong call to action. We're telling them exactly what to expect here. And then headline down below here, we're telling them that this is a download, and we've given them the title of the asset, which is The Secrets of Email Prospecting. And the image, this was not created by a marketing department. This was shot on the Android phone of our client, of just one of the sales reps in his office. So it's attention grabbing because it doesn't look engineered. And by the way, that ad converts at like 45%. It's crazy. Then we get to the targeting portion. So many cool targeting options. What I'm showing you here on the screen is only about 1/5 of everything that's available on LinkedIn. We can target by job title, department, seniority, skills, even the names of groups that people are members of, company size, company industry, even company name for you account-based marketers out there. The education, like where they went to school, what they graduated in, what they studied, the male, female split, age, especially geographies, now that they've integrated with Bing's geo data set, so you can get really specific about individual cities. But what's so cool is you can combine almost all of these to make tighter audiences, and you can also exclude chunks that you don't want. Like if you know that you're advertising to maybe one of your competitors might be in that audience technically, add your competitors as an exclusion from all of your campaigns, and don't spend any sort of money on people who won't ever become good business for you. So now we get to the most important part, which is the offer. This is what you're asking people to do. Now remember that LinkedIn ads are premium. They're expensive at $8 to $11 per click. And so if you have offers that are very low friction, like just come and read this blog post or look at this infographic, most people are going to be willing to do that. So you'll have high click-through rates, but you'll be paying $8 to $11 to get someone to read your blog post. And it's going to create a very high cost per lead. So I don't recommend being at the top of this friction funnel. And then at the bottom of the friction funnel, I don't recommend trying to push people directly to a talk to a sales rep or buy now, because that's asking too much too soon. Even a free trial or hop on the phone for a demo is oftentimes too much. It's scary for people, and you'll pay a lot of money to have a very low conversion rate. So really, for LinkedIn ads to be successful and efficient and scalable, you want to lead with valuable content first. So this is a give us your information, and in exchange, you'll get a free checklist or a cheat sheet, a guide, join this free webinar, case studies, if they're good, can even fit in here. And the goal here is to give someone something that they are excited about, because in order to give our personal information, we need that. We need to have something that we really do think will solve a major pain point for us. A little note on the effects of COVID. I had a YouTube advertiser tell me the other day that their costs dropped to 1/9 of what they were before, which is incredible. I'm hearing reports from Facebook advertisers of 30 to 40% decreases in costs. LinkedIn is so predominantly B2B that, and B2B moves slower, their budgets don't shift as often. We did see a lot of larger advertisers pull back or stop spending during the panic. And so because of that, we see costs that have decreased 5 to 10%. And because on LinkedIn, we're usually going after someone with a longer sales cycle and a bigger consideration phase, it's a really good time to be advertising. While people are spending more time on LinkedIn, 60% more time is being spent in the LinkedIn newsfeed right now, by the way, because they're not worried about having social media up on their screen as their boss walks by, and costs are down. So this is a great time, if you have got these longer sales cycles, to be investing in that audience. However, if you have a really short sales cycle, there aren't a whole lot of people who are signing big contracts right now, so it might be a good time to hold off. But if that's not the case, great time to be investing. Anyone who wants to get advertising on LinkedIn, we have this free 8-point checklist of how to get started. It's the 8 things that you need to start, and it's the same checklist we use when we onboard a new client. So b2links.com/checklist will get you access to that. And then finally, I launched a new podcast about 4 months ago. Maybe it's been 5 now, geez. But there's about 16 episodes up that go really deep into LinkedIn ads concepts. So if you're a podcast listener and you really want to go deep into LinkedIn ads, check that one out. It's called the LinkedIn Ads Show podcast. And with that, Jenny, I hope we didn't go like railroad through Q&A. I'd love to open it up for Q&A.
Yeah, no, perfect. Thanks so much, AJ, and fantastic information as always. We do have some questions in. I think you may have touched on this with the podcast, but somebody's wondering, Greg is wondering if you have a newsletter or suggestions for how people can stay up to date on changes to LinkedIn.
Yes, so I do have a newsletter, but honestly, it gets ignored a lot. So feel free to go to b2links.com, sign up for the newsletter. You'll hear about the major announcements, but we're not sending stuff weekly. I don't want to bug anyone. But podcast is by far the easiest way. Or follow me on LinkedIn. I keep sharing all the cool stuff on LinkedIn just with my organic shares. So follow over there. If you do want to connect, make sure you customize your request, because if it's not customized, I don't know why someone wants to connect. I just ignore them.
Okay, great. And then this is actually an interesting question. Google and Facebook. I'm not aware of it if they have.
Can you repeat? Sorry, my internet connection was going fuzzy on me.
Oh, sorry. So Google and Facebook have said that they're offering credits to businesses, particularly those who've been affected by COVID. And the question is LinkedIn doing anything similar?
Oh man, I wish.
Yeah.
No, LinkedIn has not offered anything financial to anyone, even if you fight for it hard. So yeah, I wouldn't count on them for any sort of monetary kindness, unfortunately.
Okay, and then Connie Ross is asking about, can you speak to the LinkedIn targeting that's available within Microsoft advertising?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I sure can. So this is interesting. Microsoft merged their data set with LinkedIn's, and it took them about a year to do. So this was a serious undertaking. And because of that, if you go to Bing, I believe it's open beta right now to do their search targeting, which is like, if you it's like RLSA. If you search one of these keywords and you fit these audience criteria on LinkedIn, then we'll show to you. I believe it's still in closed beta, but it might not be anymore. The whole display side, where you can just bid on audience facets for LinkedIn members and just show across all Microsoft properties in a display format. I hope they will continue to move more targeting facets over, but as of right now, it's only your job function, which is your department, your company name, and your industry. So if you can, if you can narrow down your audience by those 3 segments, that's great. Eventually, I hope they give us job title, and I hope they give us skills, and maybe even groups. I think could make a lot of sense. You want it to be broader audiences on the Bing side, just because you want to actually get some clicks from it. But we've been averaging around $1.20 per click from really valuable LinkedIn audiences. So I highly suggest testing it out.
And then on the flip side, they've integrated Bing search data for LinkedIn, right? For targeting the Bing search behaviors.
Yeah, with interest targeting, part of the thing that qualifies someone as an interest is their Bing search history. But of course, that data is pretty small on LinkedIn side. But if it's there, if LinkedIn has access to it, it will dictate the interest that you can bid on.
Yeah, great. How are you feeling about lead gen ads right now? And how are pages performing? Are they performing as well as they had been?
Yeah, we do a lot of landing page testing because the lead forms I know generate lower lead quality, and so many of the audiences we're going after on LinkedIn are really a VIP type of audience. They're someone who represents a very large purchase, and we want to give them make a strong impression on them. So because of that, I like having them on my landing page because they'll get to they'll make more of an impression on them. You won't have salespeople saying, "Hey, we reached out to this person," but they don't remember ever filling out a form. That does happen with lead ads. So my preference would be send them to a high performing landing page, but a lot of our clients aren't sophisticated enough to have tested into a great landing page. And a lead gen form is a great kind of a step, at least in the right direction. And if you're looking to prove out the channel, it will give you the lowest cost per lead possible. So it's really good to show a boss and say, hey, we tested out LinkedIn. Look at the quality of the people we're generating and look at how low of a cost. It does make sense. Like I said, 60% of our clients are using them exclusively, even against my recommendations.
All right, great. Keep the questions coming in for AJ. We're gonna thank you so much, AJ. There are some questions in the Q&A panel. If you can respond to those, that'd be great. And next up, we have Melissa Mackey from Gyro, and she is going to be talking about her area of expertise in B2B and talking about B2B advertising in a COVID-19 world. So kick it off, Melissa.
All right. Hello, everybody. Let me get my presentation going here. Let's see if I can get this going. Come on. Okay. There we go. All right. Hello, everybody. I'm excited to be speaking here at our inaugural PSA conference, and I'm going to talk about B2B advertising in a COVID-19 world. So first, a little bit about me. I work at Gyro, which is Dentsu Aegis Network's flagship B2B agency, and I've been there for 8 years. We do exclusively B2B, so we're full service. We do search, social, creative, branding, etc. I specialize in paid search and paid social, and you can follow me on Twitter at Mel66. So let's talk about some B2B challenges that we're having right now during COVID-19. It's unique and different from what we see in B2C. So this is a lovely B2C landing page. B2B pages don't look anything like this. This has a nice image, add to basket, lovely colors. Our landing pages don't look anything like this. Very few B2B advertisers sell online. Our pages look more like this one, where we're doing lead generation. We have a form and people are then asking to get a trial, to get a demo. They're downloading a white paper. They're contacting a salesperson. So it's not the same thing at all in that we're not seeing the bumps in e-commerce that a lot of people who are selling online are seeing right now. We have a lot of advertisers who are in the opposite situation where their leads have kind of dried up. That said, a lot of industries have found their products in higher demand right now. So if you're a wholesaler, if you provide products to all these businesses whose online sales are way up, you're really swamped. If you're medical, if you sell ventilators or anything else in the medical field that it relates to COVID-19 treatment, you're swamped. Janitorial. Everybody is selling more or is doing more deep cleaning. Offices that were being cleaned are now being doubly cleaned. So these folks are swamped as well. The food supply chain is completely disrupted. Not only are they swamped with everybody panic buying at the grocery stores and trying to keep those supplies up, but the restaurant and commercial business has dried up and those foods are not supplied in the same way. So if you're buying milk for a restaurant, you're buying it in giant containers. Nobody's buying those for their home. They want gallon jugs. And so they've got to completely retool their food supply chain. And then interestingly, SaaS and business productivity, not surprising is the fact that video conferencing like we're doing right now, security, remote working, that's all increased as well. I'm sure it surprises no one on this call. But what is interesting is that a lot of our SaaS clients are seeing people looking towards the future. And this study from Sage and Tact is showing that 21% of businesses are looking to purchase or expand the use of cloud-based systems for things like accounting and HR. So SaaS businesses, this is kind of the time to step back and say, how can we do things better and more efficiently? And these are growing as well. So events are canceled or going virtual. The whole reason for this conference is because we saw a need due to events being canceled or gone virtual. Events are a huge way for B2B advertisers to get clients. They invest significant amounts of money, and I mean significant amounts of money in events. And in-person events are a great source of leads because you have the person in front of you. They are, very engaged. They're very active and very far down the funnel. A virtual conference is not exactly the same. It's easy for users to sign up, especially if there's no cost, and they may not be as hot of a lead. And of course, if you're canceling your conference, like a lot of the medical ones are just flat out canceled, you're just losing those leads. So they've got to do something to make up for that. It's a mess. So what should you do about it? First thing you got to do, get your basics down. Review all of your ad copy and landing pages. So the typical things that we've done in the past, such as example here, propel your business to the next level with a bunch of people cheering, and this just doesn't play. It doesn't feel right during this time. So you've got to check your tone. And if you haven't done this already, you really need to go today and check all of your ad copy, all your site links, all of your social ads to make sure that you're really trying to be helpful and sensitive to the times that we're in and not cheerleading. Also take a look at your images. So this is actually a stock photo that up until recently was very typical in B2B with a bunch of people sitting around a small table in close quarters shaking hands. This doesn't play well either. Some of you may have looked at this and had a reaction like, this isn't what's going on right now, and no one should be doing this. So you've got to review your images and maybe put one person in the image instead of a bunch of people. And further than that, you may want to consider adding images of people with masks. So I was on Twitter recently, just kind of browsing through. I saw an ad with a picture of a person, and somebody commented he should be wearing a mask. So if that's appropriate for your business, not saying that everybody should do this, but think about maybe would that make it look better and show that you're really in tune to what's going on right now. Other tips. So IP targeting is something that we use in B2B all the time. If you have a company that you want to reach, you just find out their IP address and you target that at their business location. Well, nobody's at those locations right now. Everyone's working from home. So your IP targeting is out the window, or out the windy, as Gerard Butler might say. You're going to have to find another way to reach those people. If you're doing any kind of geo-targeting based around business locations, that same thing. It's no longer applicable. Also, your remarketing lists, cookies, and devices are thrown off. So if people are in a remarketing list based on a particular device that they're using, maybe it's their computer at their office, and yes, some people do still use desktop computers. They might be at home working on a personal computer now, and so all the remarketing cookies are gone. Cookie duration is something that you need to take a look at. So if your buying cycle is normally 90 days, that may be longer now. It probably is, because people are taking longer to make decisions just due to everything that's going on. And then devices have gone crazy. So this is actual data that we're seeing from a particular client, and most of our clients look similar. So prior to February, we were seeing computer traffic go down and mobile traffic go up. Now people are not traveling, they're not commuting, they're not using their mobile devices as much, and the traffic is just going down while computers is going up. So this is the opposite of what we were seeing in the past. And if you've got a strong mobile strategy, if you've made device adjustments, you're going to want to take a look at that and make sure that you're adjusting appropriately for what's happening right now in this time. And then keep an eye on search volumes and trends. So needless to say, search volume on different keywords is going all over the place. You might be seeing decreased volume on your brand terms, but increased volume on non-brand. You might see certain search queries coming in that may or may not be relevant to your business. Nils Ruemans has put out this script, and it's free, that will show you trending search terms. So this is search queries that are trending week over week and year over year. And we've installed this on almost all of our search accounts because it's so helpful. It tells us, is there anything COVID related that's coming up that maybe we want to negative out? Are there other products or services that are trending right now that we want to be aware of? Are people maybe interested in something different than they would be normally? It's a great way to keep up on those trends and make sure that you're responding appropriately. Rethink your channel mix. So this is something that you should be looking at all the time, but maybe you think you've got your channel mix all figured out. You know exactly what works for what part of the buyer journey. Well, you're going to want to take a look at that again because everything is upside down. So the conventional wisdom in B2B has been do less social and more search. Social feels like it maybe is not the right time to do this. Maybe it's insensitive. Maybe people aren't in the right mindset right now for social. But with search, everybody's searching. And if they're searching, they're interested. So that means we want to be there. And that all makes sense. That's all true. But search cost per click is going up and social cost per click is going down. So again, this is actual data that we're seeing with some of our clients. Search CPCs are up pretty significantly, just because there's more competition there. People are, it's almost a holiday-like effect that we're seeing, except B2B doesn't have a holiday effect. But that's what's happening right now. And the opposite is happening in social. So this is an example from Twitter, but we're seeing the same with Facebook and LinkedIn. And AJ talked about this in his presentation a little bit earlier, where cost per click is down pretty significantly because so many people have cut their campaigns back. So you may want to not pull back on social as much as you had thought. Again, be sensitive about your messaging, but just be aware that the costs are doing some crazy things. Also think about filling the funnel. So a lot of B2B advertising campaigns focus on this decision part at the bottom because those are people who are hot leads. You can hand them right off to sales. And so it's easy to do trials and demos or contact a salesperson. And I've run B2B campaigns where that was the extent of the offers that they were running. people aren't making those decisions as much now, and there are fewer people out there doing that. So now is the time to focus on awareness and consideration. Think about your lead nurture flow. Fill that funnel with content that's higher up. Get people warmed up. So think about, are there some valuable videos that I can show that maybe illustrate what we offer, and I can get people into a remarketing funnel that way? Do I have consideration content, maybe something they can download? Get them warmed up that way. And then you can come back and talk to them later, but start warming them up. This is something you should be doing anyway, but a lot of people just haven't bothered because they haven't had to. Well, now is the time to do this. And like I mentioned a second ago, prepare your retargeting for the future. So build your audiences now and remarket to them later. Get this in place. B2B is surprisingly sluggish on remarketing. People just don't seem to want to do it. They don't have the content for it. Now is the time to do that. Get those audiences built. You could run a video and have a video engagers audience. You could start doing lookalikes. This is the time to start doing all those things. Start doing testing. Test these audiences and test creatives against them. Test different content. So content development is something else that often gets put to the wayside. Think about, is there some content we could be developing and putting out there right now? And then again, start to retarget those people later on. So competition is down, take advantage. I mentioned this earlier with the lower cost per click, and we're definitely seeing this across the board, and now is the time to take advantage. Ad spending is down. So this is data from Statista. The top line here in this graph is 0%. Literally every channel is way down due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and some are horribly down. Out of home, as you can imagine, is down over 50%. Search and social here in the middle are doing a little bit better, but everything's still down. So pretty dire situation here. Not as many people are advertising and spending money. However, people are spending more time with media, and AJ alluded to this as well in his presentation. This example here is just for streaming video on demand. But the numbers in the gray bars, which is March data, I have to believe April data is even higher because things were just starting to shut down in March. This is all people are doing. There's nothing else to do. So they're spending tons of time with their video on demand. And, this is the place to advertise. So if you've ever thought about testing video on demand, now is the time to do it. And we're seeing this in other channels as well, where time spent with media is way up and advertising is down. So now is the time to put a program in market. When other people zig, you should be zagging. If everybody's pulled out, now is your time to invest. And then be helpful. So this is the time to think about, how can my business help others? Forget about the hard sell, forget about, trying to push things on people and being really in your face with your offers. You want to talk about how you're being helpful. And we've got some examples from our clients here. This is one for Philips Healthcare. So they make medical equipment, including ventilators and other things that everybody is in need of during this crisis. They can't advertise their ventilators because they're back ordered until next year. So instead of doing that, and instead of pulling out completely, they've said, well, let's see how we can be helpful. So they've got a program that they put together where they are talking about responding in crisis. We're here with you. We have support, we have training, we have webinars. They've put together a whole hub website where they've got this information showing how they're being helpful. So this really resonates with people in the medical community. It's showing that they're behind them, and it's a way to keep their name out there and build goodwill. Another example from Sentry Insurance, which is a business insurance company. They put together a TV spot and an online video spot, and it's at this address if you want to go look at it. It's all about thanking the frontliners. So thanking truck drivers, thanking food workers at the grocery stores, thanking medical people. They don't mention their name at all until the last 2 seconds of the ad. It's just all about saying thank you. It's really quite moving. I encourage you to go watch this, but This is the kind of thing that again, sends the right message. Forget about hard sell. This is just really showing how we're being helpful. So above all, it's most important to remember that people are at the other end of every interaction. So when we think about B2B, it's easy to get caught up in thinking about who you want to target in terms of businesses. So company names, job titles, skills, all the different ways that you can reach people, interests even. And you tend to forget that there's a human being, a person at the other end of these interactions. So this guy here in this picture, at this point in time, he could be watching streaming video to relax, or he could be working. He's doing both of those sitting in the exact same place in his living room. But he, you know, you don't know what he's doing right now because everybody's doing things in crazy places. So even with B2B, people are at the other end. This is something you should really be thinking about all the time, but it's important right now to think about especially. So just to recap, get your basics down, make sure that your ad copy and images are appropriate. Rethink your channel mix, make sure that you are thinking about where your users are and taking advantage of any reduced competition that's out there. Everything is inexpensive, so now is the time to get in on that. Be helpful, show how your business is helping people during this tough time, and remember that people are at the heart of it. Thank you, and hopefully we've got some time for questions.
We are actually, thank you so much, Melissa. We're actually, we're running up on time, but we do have some questions in the Q&A mod. If you want to answer those in the portal, that'd be awesome.
Will do.
All right. Thank you so much. That was really great, and always a good reminder that people are behind all of this. It's one of those simple things that is easy to lose concept of. So thanks. That's great. All right. Next up, we have Lisa Meyer, who is CEO of digital marketing agency Directive Group. And she's going to be talking about re-engaging customers when the economy reopens. And
hello
Lisa,
there. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen, make sure that that works properly.
Yeah, that's great. And while you're doing that, just a reminder for everyone, you can use the Q&A module at the bottom of your screen to enter in questions during our presentations. All right, great. Go ahead, Lisa.
Excellent. Can you see my screen okay? Does everything look good there?
Yep, you're all set.
Very awesome. Again, my name is Lisa Meyer. I'm with a company by the name of Directive Group, and today we'll be talking about re-engaging when the economy reopens. Oops, trigger happy. Wanted to take a second to thank you for this first virtual conference by the PSA, Paid Search Association. It's good to be here, and thank you for allowing me to speak. The topics I wanted to cover today, a little bit about Directive Group. I realize I don't have a photo anywhere. I won't do that mistake again. And so I have a picture of our elephant though. So I want to talk a little bit about Directive Group. I want to talk about you, the people that we're speaking to here today, talk about learning from history with recessions, and then talking about the best action in this particular recession that has 3 stages: crisis, pivot and adapt, and market return. My goal really is, when I was working on this, I was thinking about US-based clients and how to help them perform best in this current environment that is both recessionary and has this pandemic overlay. So it's a really troubled and economic environment. Obviously, there are bright spots. We've been hearing about them today and yesterday as well, so that's excellent. A lot of people, however, aren't in the bright spot, and they're trying to figure out how to manage their business environment, how to manage their marketing effort. And so my goal is really to talk about that large group of us that are seeing a downturn in our business, don't know what the future is going to hold, and we want to continue marketing in that environment. So that's what I'll be talking about today. a little bit about Directive Group. We're a full-service digital agency. We do position ourselves as a business growth strategy consulting firm. And then we apply integrated digital marketing tactics to programs designed to achieve our clients' growth goals. So we're a performance-based agency, big focus on ROI. We do work with B2B and considered B2C. Some examples of the clients that we work with are below. So now to the fun part. I want to talk about you. I think a great way to start this conversation is to talk about your role as a marketer working with companies that are facing this economic crisis and this pandemic at the same time. Interestingly enough, this is the third recession that we've been in the digital era in the last 20 years. So it's not the first time that we're going through this. We have a little bit of a different circumstance, but one of the really important things that I like to remember during this time is that our clients right now are looking to us, they're looking to you to figure out what works in marketing right now. And this is a really important time for you to claim a different authority position to help coach them through an enormously chaotic situation. So I think a great starting place is to realize that you've become mission critical to their survival in some cases, and certainly to their success. So some thoughts about that would include making sure that you lead with facts and data. I'm going to be giving you some facts and data today, so some examples of that, and I've been seeing some all morning, so some great information to share with folks. Helping them focus on essential audiences. Melissa was just talking about that a few moments ago. Sometimes you're not talking to the customers that you normally talk to, selling the things that you normally sell. Maybe you're helping your clients focus on their employees or some other stakeholders in the community. You're an important person to help them figure out who they need to talk to in what order and what the message might be. Really important right now is to show others how others have done it or are doing it now. Like I said, this is our third recession in the last 20 years, so you have some case studies that are available, how other folks have come through these just fine and maybe even flourished, so make sure you make use of those case studies. Showing them other competitor behavior is also very helpful. Some of the stats and numbers we've been seeing today are really good to help people benchmark against. It's really important to make bulletproof recommendations. Anything that we recommend as marketers, they're going to be undergoing a great deal of scrutiny right now. So you want to make sure that what you're proposing can be fully vetted and makes really sound sense. The final comment that I wanted to make is it's really important now that you're invited to the executive table to help them make some business driving decisions. Bring strategies to your clients before you bring them tactics. So thinking about the big picture and bringing that view to them is really important. From a historical perspective, this being our third recession since 2000, really interesting studies out there from some really big names. For instance, McKinsey and Bain both have done extensive research on what happens during recessions and what happens after recessions. And there's definitely a ton of evidence out there showing that what happens now, the actions your companies take, will impact them when we come out of this. So helping them get it right now can really increase their performance as right now and coming out of this recession. A Harvard business study that it was for 4,700 publicly traded companies found that it's roughly 2 times performance for people that get it right now as opposed to people that don't get it right. And they were comparing things like who was very timid versus who was wildly optimistic, and then who was appropriately progressive. A really nice analogy that I read once, I think helps us to get this right now. Think of a recession as a sharp curve on an auto racetrack. The best place to pass competitors is right now, but it requires more skill than straightaways. The best drivers apply the brakes just ahead of the curve. So as we're coming into this crisis, taking out excess costs, turning hard toward the apex of the curve, identifying a very solid, tight list of what you want to focus on from an advertising perspective, and then really importantly, to accelerate hard coming out of the curve. So the companies that succeeded really well in the previous two recessions, started spending and hiring just before the markets rebounded. And that's where it takes courage and boldness to really make decisions and act appropriately. But for those companies that are able to do that, they, like I said, had double the performance of the companies that were not able to do that successfully. So what I want to talk about is what does it take to do that successfully? Some of the information coming out of previous recessions, there are demand shocks and then there are supply shocks. We're in a demand shock right now. There are 8 different elements that are decisive in helping companies outperform their average when they come out of this. One is focusing on the core, and that means eliminating anything that's fluff. All the pet projects go away. Sharpening brand positioning. The steak always did matter. The sizzle always did matter. Both still matter. Cutting costs and not corners, really important because people have a tendency to want to start charging less, and sometimes that's not the right thing to do. Another really important thing is how to deliver meaningful value. There are some excellent examples out there right now. For instance, Amazon's Audible is offering a free collection of children's audiobooks for as long as schools are closed. So they haven't lowered the price of Audible, but what they did is they started taking what they had and delivering some meaningful value out to the market. Boost physical availability. So we're seeing some different channels, some different platforms that people are buying from. Making sure that you're available broadly across where people are looking is very important. Every bit of the brand must sell. So, if you're selling a service, every interaction is part of the selling process. If you're selling products, even the packaging must sell. Having the courage to cut through. This is the boldness and decisiveness that I was talking about a little bit. Part of it is right now. So you hear about manufacturing companies, for instance, that are kind of dead in the water, but they've turned their attention to manufacturing masks or hand sanitizer and things like that. Those are really courageous acts that will pay off. Lots of loyalty shifting is happening right now, and things will be different coming out of this based on how people act in this. And then finally, I heard Melissa saying this as well, share the pain. Like really nothing we do as a marketer should be without an awareness and compassion for the fact that not only is this an economic shock to all of us, but it's also scary because death is involved or potentially involved. So really, really important time to be compassionate and aware. The final thing I wanted to say here is that in this kind of situation, for the companies you serve, this may be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for them to gain market share that may never otherwise be available to them. So this is not a trivial situation from a marketing perspective, and so it's really important for us to help walk them through these choices. I'm going to kind of categorize this economic situation in 3 stages. Stage 1 is the outbreak, which ostensibly we've already gone through, but we may return back to, so I'm going to speak about it a little bit. Stage 2 is containment. Stage 3 is recovery. Stage 1, the crisis. Most important, and I think all of us have seen this by now, is it's critical to be very visible, to be very rapid in your decision making, to be decisive and compassionate. So being visible toward customers, employees, industry, and community, there's a lot of people that you have to be visible in front of. Future loyalty decisions are being made right now, so this is really important from that perspective as well. Handling all communications, all actions with speed, transparency, and authenticity, rapid flow of information, and looking for ways to help and contribute to solutions is really essential right now. I'm going to talk about resegmenting in just a second because this is one of the 2 key things I'm going to be suggesting that you do. But it's definitely true that during a recession, you may need to segment your audiences in different ways than you have in non-recessionary times. I'm going to walk through that in a second. And then finally, this is not a time to be silent. If you're going to do something, communicate it appropriately. If there is something that you have that's valuable in the market, sell it, but sell it appropriately. So it's really a time that we have to be very careful with how we handle almost everything that we're doing. looking to the segmentation, and I apologize that this is a little bit tiny, but I did want to try to fit it on one slide. I have the source link at the very back of this presentation, so it's available to you. This came from a Harvard Business Review study, and basically what this is trying to show on the left-hand matrix is how you might think about segmenting your customers, and then how your products or services fit in terms of how they see what's important and what's not important to them right now. So just walking through it really quickly, there are people that have a slam on the brakes mentality. The pain but patient is the huge majority in the middle. Comfortably well off, the top 5% probably, and live for today. Mostly young people don't have much to lose. So talking about the slam on the brakes, these are people that have been impacted the worst. They've lost a job, they've lost someone in their family to the COVID-19. There are some serious problems going on in their personal situations. The pain but patient are just about everyone else. It's kind of a scary time. That decisions are made cautiously, but basically things are okay, but it could change. They could go into a slam on the brakes. The comfortably well off, if they're the top 5%, probably nothing has changed for them, except that they don't want to consume so conspicuously as they have in the past. And so over here along the horizontal axis is the types of products that you might be selling. So you have essentials, treats. Treats came up a lot in the last recession. People want to have small rewards, postponables, and then expendables. So you need to categorize your products and services along this axis and kind of figure out, once you understand the groupings of the people you're targeting, whether they're existing clients or potential new clients that you see an opportunity with. And then you can figure out from here how you want to start working with them. What are the things that they need with regard to your products and services? And then this chart over here is basically thoughts on what kind of platforms you might use, what kind of tactics you might use, and then what kind of messaging. So like I said, it's pretty tiny, but I just wanted to walk through the concept, and then the link is at the end of this that walks through it. But this is a really important time, I think, to reconsider your segmentation and start segmenting to either find new opportunities, new people to work with, or changes in your existing client base. Stage 2, I think we're kind of sort of in stage 2 where there's an assessment, pivoting, and adapting going on. I think a lot of people have already said we're not on a linear path. We're going to go one step forward, 2 steps back, et cetera, and there's going to be a lot of movement. In fact, my next chart is going to show some economic recovery scenarios. I'm going to talk about scenario planning for just a moment then. But basically in stage 2, there's a couple of things that are going on. Number one, you're doing the adaptation of your products or services, either for existing clients, customers, or you're looking for new segments that you can target based on what you have to offer. You want to keep an eye on the key variables on the virus, public health response, public policy, customer and prospect behavior, which I was just talking about with regard to segmentation. You want to watch unfolding trends. There are a lot of changes happening right now. For instance, in retail, consumers are definitely looking to retailers to have some help in how to figure all of this out, and they're making buying decisions on that. Local services, people are trying to buy contactless, have things delivered to them. Changes going on across healthcare, finance, technology, media and entertainment. We were just looking at some of the numbers in the last presentation. Interestingly enough, in the last recession, the CPG group of companies had a major shift in market share based on actions during the recession. So looking at some of those changes and opportunities is really important. The final thing that I want to mention is that in messaging, how you're helping and how you're adapting what you offer to help them cope with this with awareness and compassion. Interesting examples coming out of China that I think that we're starting to see modeled here in the U.S. For instance, clothing manufacturers, yoga and active wear brands started live streaming classes so people could exercise at home. Things like that are opportunities for businesses to become very creative in helping support their communities and the people that they serve. And then helping these loyalty decision changes at the same time. So it's a really interesting time to be creative about how you can help. I want to talk for 1 second about scenario planning. And again, I know this is a pretty intense chart to look at. This has 9 different cells in it, and there are 4 of them are highlighted. The top right one is the perfect scenario for a recession recovery, which is a V-shaped where we go into it and we go out of it really fast. And then there are a lot of other scenarios that aren't as beautiful as that one. It's expected that our recovery isn't going to be as beautiful as that one, even though all of us hope that it could be. And so thinking about scenario planning, what that really amounts to is just determining a few things, determining what are the key variables that could change the way you want to come out of this, the way that you want the companies you serve to come out of this. Key variables here are the virus, how contained is it, have there been outbreaks somewhere else, and the public health response. So keeping an eye on that will affect how we come out of that. There are these knock-on effects that come from the responses to the virus outbreak, for instance, and then the public policy response. So keeping an eye on those and deciding how, if those change, your products and service offerings will change will be very helpful for you in determining how you might want to respond. So basically, during this adapt phase is the time to work on your scenario planning. Once you have your scenarios planned, all the ways we could come out of it, all the ways you want to respond, then you use your segmentation and you figure out who you're going to target with what message on what platform. And that way, you're 100% ready as we do come out of this. And that's probably key, is that when we come out of this, the folks that, I don't know if you remember with the auto racing analogy that I gave you, that just ahead of the rebound, the companies that responded in a way that was appropriate for their audiences, that was decisive in how they grew after the recession was over. So looking at market return scenarios, the market return will be by geography, country, industry, behavioral segments. So it's going to be different. There are going to be these long-term trends that have developed that you're going to be dealing with when we come out of this. So kind of thinking through the impacts of those. You have your scenario planning, and so you know how you're going to activate your marketing based on the scenarios that show up, remembering that this one has significant emotional recovery needs that are going to be part of our market recovery. So basically what you want to do is you want to be prepared for as we come into the market return, however we're coming in. If we have a little bit of gain and then a little back, how are you going to handle that? This is the time to have all of that prepared for your really strong market return. I just wanted to mention in wrapping up, there are a couple of things that are definitely trends that were noticed in China and some of the other countries that went through this first that will impact us probably as we come out of it. Healthy living is a trend, unmanned retail, remote working tools and technologies, e-learning education technologies, healthcare, supply chain changes, definitely some changes that are going to happen there. And then a higher adoption by what's called the silver segment of online consumption because they've been forced to. So there's a lot of opportunity for you with these changes coming out of it. Now's your time to plan for that. The final slide here is just the sources, so this will be available to you. I mentioned some HBR studies, some McKinsey and Bain studies, so those are all listed here. And that is it for me. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your attention.
Fantastic, Lisa. Thank you so much. And I know people are going to be looking forward to diving into those slides in greater detail. That was a terrific overview of how to be thinking about the near future and longer term future. Thank you so much.
Yes, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, and that actually, quick reminder that we do have a roundtable. That will kick off around 12:30 with the speakers of today, and we'll also be joined by Andrew Gooden and Amy Bishop as well. So stay tuned for that. And finally, we've got Bill Leak, CEO of digital marketing agency Apogee Results, and he's going to be talking about strategies and meta tactics to rapidly grow your performance of your paid digital media campaigns. So, Bill, are you with us?
I am. I just had to turn my email off so it would stop dinging every time I got one. And we may get some train noises in the back here. So I guess that's more excitement that a lot of us are getting in these current times.
Yes, part of the ambiance. All right. We're not seeing your screen yet.
I know, I'm working on it. One second.
Okay. All right, no rush. And
I did the rookie mistake of going for the slideshow before going to get the screen. Let's see. Where do I request? I get to full screen here. Okay. Here we go. How about that?
perfect.
You see it? Great.
Yep. Just need.
Let's go ahead and start. Thank you everyone for joining us. We are definitely in interesting times. Some of this stuff is, there's the train in the background if you can hear it. Some of this will be familiar to many of you. Some of it may be new. One of the things I want to stress is when you get to a situation like where we are now, sometimes back to the basics is where you get the best return. A lot of us, a lot of times don't like to do the basics, but because we'd love to do advanced strategies, not all these are advanced, but a lot of them are actually not being done, or not being done well. So let's dive into it. So I've been in this space longer than I care to admit. I did have a life before it, although the older I get, the harder it is to remember that life. But I once did have a pre-digital life. I do, over the course of the time, I've worked with some folks, and most of them would have good things to say, and some of them are humans just like me and might have other things to say. But for the most part, we try to do our best. We have good humans who care about clients, and we have achieved some amazing results, as have many, many other folks out there. So the first thing that I would stress if you're really trying to improve your digital ROI is never lose track of who is your customer, where are they in life, and what role can digital play in that. If you're B2C or B2 small business, digital can be the lead actor in the movie. It can totally be GRU. It can be the predominant driver of ROI and success. However, if you're business to enterprise, sometimes digital becomes more of a supporting actor, more of the minions, and you look for intersection points. Historically, that was even more important in B2B because people were spending lots of money on physical events. As you've heard earlier today, there seem to be fewer physical events going on. So B2B has really picked up where digital now is one of the only actors left, or virtual events. Also be thinking at a high level, what's the journey and what's the content for each section of the journey, and what's the message wrapped around that content. So be thinking through a whole funnel or customer journey adventure and the right content for each stages of that. If you haven't done this, if all you have is textual content trying to get people to a lead form, you're really missing a lot of opportunity to increase your ROI on digital and to outflank and outfox your competition. Because you know what? All your competitors are right there as well, going for last mile inside the red zone, get people just over the finish line. And that's the most expensive stuff to do. If you do stuff earlier funnel, earlier customer journey, they might not even look at your competitors. Or by the time they do, you've reframed and relensed the way they should do their purchase decision, and your competitors look orthogonal to that. So the other thing that I believe is really important to properly increase and measure your digital ROI is to think through all those stages of the customer journey and think through the appropriate metrics for each of those. Because not everything is going to be fill out a lead form. Sometimes it's going to be engagement on a page. Sometimes it's going to be, did they watch the video all the way through? And ideally, your marketing budget in conversations with your CMO and your CFO ultimately need to have different ROI metrics for each stage of the journey. And where this really falls, well, and we need to know about attribution. We really need to think through attribution because even in B2C, a lot of times it's not first touch. First touch might be SEO. Second touch might be paid search. Third touch might be Retail Me Not or Honey. Retail Me Not has built a whole edifice on what I would call SEO trademark theft. You're already in the shopping cart. You're already about to buy and you see an empty box. It says insert coupon code. Well, most people don't want to be the village idiot, so we do an alt tab and we search for brand name space coupon. And up pops a deal that, 5% of the time might work. If we actually find one that works and we stick it in, guess who gets credit in e-com? The affiliate manager, even though it was paid search that brought them there. And they would have bought anyway had they not found a coupon. So think through in B2B and B2C attribution, have the arguments. And then we really need to get beyond, badly need to get beyond things like what's my ROI on Facebook? And what's my ROI on Google? And what's my ROI on Bing? We really need to matrix this a bit more, crosshatch it, and think through what's our ROI by platform, by stage of journey. Because there are a whole bunch of keywords on Google that are not conversion keywords in the final conversion. They're awareness and interest keywords. And if we're measuring those on demand gen success or demand gen metrics, we won't buy them. And if our competitors are buying them and we're not, they're getting those folks on the journey with them and we're trying to intercept them off the back of the truck in the last mile, which is a lot harder to do and a lot more expensive. This should be, I think everybody listening to this, there's nothing here that's new. When did you last do this? Because this is the pushing the broom. This is the hard scut work of actually making it work. And I would say if anyone's on this call and they are hands deep in Google, keep this up. If you're managing either an agency or a team that's supposedly doing this, figure out how often are they testing ad copy? Does every single ad group have multiple pieces of copy being tested, at least 2? If not, fire those folks today. Hire new ones. You know what? There are a lot of people who want your business right now. So always be testing, always be measuring, and always be asking in these digital environments, what else can I learn from this? If something's doing well in social, might it also do well in display? If something's doing well on YouTube, might it also do well on Facebook? If something's pulling well with search or social ad copy, maybe I should test that in email. So always be thinking, what else can I learn? A couple of real quick things. I love low-hanging fruit. One, when you're thinking about Google, remember, I got a bunch of search engines here. It's not just the textual one. Here's a sign for a search for custom signs. And a company we help build a sign, has the #1 listing for custom signs in SEO, but it's almost below the fold because Google has, so many other things going on and stacked the 4 ads up there. When you go further down, up pops the map. Now there's a company out there that are not pikers when it comes to SEO. It's a company called Vistaprint. You guys may have heard of them. They're #2 in SEO. What does #2 do for you these days? Kind of depressing. Anyway, lots of search engines on Google, lots of ways to add. How many of them are you participating in? This one's huge. This one's huge. How many of you are ramping up your YouTube budgets? This is the time to do it. You absolutely need video content. It actually works for B2B too. People often write off YouTube and think it's really just B2C. There is lots and lots of B2B content on YouTube. But there's not as much as there is in textual form on Google. So you could do some really interesting things on YouTube. Here's an outfit that we promoted with paid YouTube search and other things, we ended up getting thousands of inquiries at a phenomenal CPL, and then we also SEO optimized it. One quick YouTube tip: if you do webinars, think about chopping up a 45-minute webinar, take the highlights, and come up with 10 different 2-minute clips, nuggetize those, and each of them is optimized around 2 or 3 slides in a different SEO keyword on video SEO. You know, set up a branded channel, keep the content short. If you're doing this on a channel, think it's just like a blog. It's just like a podcast. You're doing it regularly. Promote it. You got multiple options to promote it. And then always think about stage of journey and promote to the next journey and retarget that channel to try to bring them to your main website. So this just keeps going up and up, but people are watching video. Pro tip number 2, it's amazing how many people forget about Bing. It's there, it's big. 34.7% of the US desktop market the last time I checked. Desktop customers are more valuable. Now, they may not hit the materiality threshold because everybody's doing mobile these days, but it's huge. There are some searchers not reached with Google. It has typically 30% less cost and similar. You got to test for yourself because your mileage not only may vary, your mileage will vary. But it typically has lower competition and lower cost. 40% of the Bing network audience is between 35 to 54 years old. So you're not getting as many of the Gen Y folks that don't have huge budgets yet. It tends to skew a little bit older, a little bit wealthier, a little more female, and a little bit more subprime. But it's a desirable audience, and your competitors are not hitting it as hard. And sometimes if you don't have big budgets, it's a great way to test stuff before you go to Google and figure out what works on a limited budget before you deploy the big budgets. And you actually have to be very programmatic about it because people forget Bing. If you're waking up in the morning and your question is, what should I do next? The answer is almost always Facebook or Google. So you have to be kind of like if you're married and you have a bunch of kids and jobs, you have to be programmatic and schedule a date with your spouse. You got to schedule a date with Bing or it's not going to happen. If you're spending more money, one of the things I've seen that works pretty well sometimes is actually leave Google with your agency and run Bing in-house, or have 2 different agencies. This one's a fun one. Agencies hate it when I say this, but have 2 different agencies. One that runs Google and one that runs Bing, and they're forced to share data. Well, your Google agency is never going to get complacent because they're terrified that they're going to lose it to the Bing agency. The Bing agency is going to work their hiney off trying to earn the Google budget. And you've got this nice little thing going on. And if you ever have to terminate one, you actually have built in a fault-tolerant failover. You flick a switch and you're not hosed. So anyway, I've seen that happen a few times. I mean, agencies hate it when I suggest that, but I think it actually sets up a really nice situation for the client. Let's go to a few other things here. One, think about being in multiple shelf spaces. If you have a channel, if you've got PR wins, other kinds of things, think Procter & Gamble and think shelf space. Here's a client of ours. They're all owned by stamps.com. They're doing well in this space. They're SaaS-based shipping software programs. They own a number of brands, and they've kept the URLs and domain sites out there. And so if you're looking for shipping software, 3 of the 4 places here, ShipStation, Shipping Easy, and Indicia, are all owned by stamps.com. Who are you going to choose? Doesn't really matter. You're getting one of theirs. So think about Google and Facebook and other times when you can, as if you're Procter & Gamble. It's an advanced strategy, but if you're already able to get the #1 listing, how do you double and triple serve? It can be hard to do on your own account. It's often better bearded through one agency or several, and they need to coordinate the data so you're bidding against yourself less than you might otherwise, but you can completely control the cloud cover here if you're running multiple brands or have a channel or other kinds of things. So here's another case. If you have channel co-op going on, you can coordinate this stuff and have multiple listings. This is a really old graphic, as you can tell, because once upon a time, Google used to serve stuff on the right. There may actually be 3 or 4 people on this broadcast who remember that. But you can do that kind of stuff. It's pretty cool. It's actually more important in these days when it's all on the top. So be everywhere that counts. Again, with different kinds of form factors, you can, you know, here was a search with 19 million SERPs, a lot of things in the results. And one of our clients managed to have, because they had some things that were PDFs, some things that are domain name, but then a lot of press articles that they were throwing links against. You can kind of do the equivalent of reputation management on some of the core searches you care about on articles and things that are friendly. And that kind of leads into combining paid and earned for more shelf space. Earned media is more trusted than owned media. So if you can promote something positive that was earned media, it makes a great deal of sense. So many of us are still too oriented toward our website, or our website being the battleship, and wanting to drive everybody immediately through our website. That's not really the environment we live in these days. We're kind of more like this. You know, there might be a biggish ship somewhere over there that we're focused on, but we've got a flotilla of other kinds of things, and content's everywhere. And so with paid media, we want to be promoting the content where it sits, everywhere it sits, try to get some retargeting bugs and other things there, and eventually launder it through our website. But sometimes promote it where it initially sits. So if I get a PR piece that gets picked up, a favorable article, even a blog post, anything that has favorable content, let me go back, promote it. Now, we actually ended up with one of the most ever read articles on CFO magazine, but that's because we dumped a bunch of social and search into it and drove a bunch of people over to it, and it had a credible domain because it was CFO magazine. It was an article, and then we made that article evergreen for 3 years for a client, where people are calling up the client saying, "I just read about you in this magazine," and we're going, "Yeah, it's a 3-year-old article, but it still works." So think about that. This is a little less important right now, but it will come back. Consider event-driven digital. Right now, humans are not thinking about physical events, but it is a fertile source of search and keyword traffic. You know, the searches around Dreamforce are immense. Even a virtual event, I'm assuming that a number of the people here went to Google and searched for PSAC, or Paid Search Association Conference, multiple times before actually attending the conference. And the ads here are cheap. It is not expensive to rank on top of an event. And you know a lot about the demographics of somebody if they're going to an event. It's one of the few worthy things in Twitter, in my impression too, is you know, try to own the hashtag and the discussion around an event. If people are having a discussion, float on top of it. You know, we've had some other speakers talk about this. It's pretty darn important, in my opinion. You know, integrate data with web analytics and other data sets, and your customer list. You know, append data, figure out who these people are. If somebody hits your website, it's harder now again, as we heard, because of the IP issues, but if they fill out a form, a lot of times the person filling out a lead form, if it's B2B, is not the same person who has purchase authority. So if somebody fills out a web form, how often does that kick off a whole other set of going to Zoom Info, going to 5 or 6 other data sources, or even just LinkedIn, and who are the other 20 people that probably surround the person who filled out the web form, the titles and roles that are likely to be involved in the purchase decision, or might move it from a purchase decision of a work group of 5 to a purchase decision of 500 or 5,000. So visit, you know, web traffic and even lead forms are really just early indicators. And particularly in B2B, if people are searching for that stuff, if someone goes and does a search for timesheet software and they hit your website and you happen to sell timesheet software, you're not doing that for fun. I mean, there's not, a lot of B2B searches are not recreational. So if you can gauge that there's intent or interest somewhere in the belly of a corporation, Well, who else is there? And how can you use the inbound from web traffic to kick off outbound, more classic email, direct mail, phone call efforts, or LinkedIn searches? We see a lot of this in B2C already, not perfect, but better. Like if you put shoes in your shopping cart, right now I've got dishwashers and a range following me around, and I haven't bought, you put it in the cart, that stuff follows you around the internet for a while. I see very, very, very little of this going on for more considered purchases. So some of it is because people just have generic retargeting things in B2B. And some of it is there's a different CMS. I might have my landing pages on Unbounce or HubSpot or something else, and the rest of my website in a different CMS. And I just never think to put the retargeting tags on my email landing pages. And where this is huge is, let's say for kicks and giggles, you're doing a webinar and you bring people to a page, and rather than generic, hey, and come back and visit company A, you're sending them a message that says, hey, notice you didn't register for the webinar. Come back and finish your registration. Would love to have you. If they do register, you're sending them messages saying webinar approaching, webinar approaching. Remember to attend the webinar. If the webinar is passed, you send them messages saying, hey, there's a replay over here on demand, and if you have further questions, we'd love to address them. So think about where people are in the customer journey and have your retargeting messages be thematically appropriate for that. Again, we see more of this in B2C. We see precious little of it in B2B. You know, it's just people are, there's so much opportunity in retargeting, so much opportunity. It's, the good news is your competitors aren't doing it properly. So another thing is if you truly are marketing a product that is so much better or so much different than what people are searching for, you've got to be doing social and you got to be doing display. Where search fails is when people aren't searching for it. So if you've got something that truly is orthogonal or different enough, you've got to go hit the demographics and educate them, and that's going to be more useful for you than search. And so when you add all this stuff together, I mean, I'd be stunned if you don't see a giant increase. I mean, proper measurement and tracking alone should be a minimum of 25% increase in your trackable ROI. You know, a culture of testing and optimization should be at least, you know, mid-30s improvement, and that's a hard culture to build, but it's very, very worth it. You know, Bing's not going to like double your ROI, but it's good ROI, and it's typically really, really mismanaged. YouTube and video, whether social or not, has a massive opportunity to move things upward, and is really, really underinvested in compared to many of the other channels. And then all the other tips, I think you'd get another 15 to 25%. So I'm willing to bet you got 125%, which is a more than doubling plus increase here. But it does involve picking up a broom. But you know, we do have a lot of time in our house with brooms these days. I'm guessing many of us have a far cleaner house now than we did when we were in the office. And don't forget conversion. You know, this is part of the always be testing, whether you're just doing heuristic and starting there, whether you go to the next level, qualitative, which is persona based, or whether you have enough traffic to really be doing multivariate. But you know, conversion is another area of our world that I think is perennially underinvested in. You know, I'm just a guy who's been studying this for a very long time. We're all students in it together. I'm sharing kind of, you know, stuff from what I've seen, but your mileage will vary. More than happy to have the team offer, you know, a free evaluation to you, either of the website from an SEO perspective, any paid digital campaign, or analytics audit if you need one of those. But you know, pleasure to be here. we'll get through all this stuff together, and around the corner, on the other side of this, on this corner, things will be better for digital. You know, right now, a lot of folks are pausing everything they can pause from a spend perspective, but this is only accelerating the trend to digital for us. And I think that's that for those of us in attendance is a really good thing from a career and work perspective once we get through these speed humps. And again, thank you very much, and I'm more than open to any questions I can answer.
Thanks, Bill. It's great. We are going to turn to roundtable time. Bill, I will ask, we've had a request, if you could close the shade behind you. And then we could see you.
Yeah. Wow. That was not intentional. How about that? Okay.
No, that's all right. All right. Thank you so much. That's great. And we are going to have a roundtable for just about an hour. And I'm going to welcome Andrew Goodman, who's founder and president of Page Zero Media. Hey, Andrew. Amy Bishop, owner of Cultivative Marketing. And AJ, welcome you back on. Melissa, you can come back on, that'd be great. Lisa Meyer and Emmy. So here we are. And if you can throw your questions in the Q&A panel and we'll get going. And I don't know how to change our screen, but anyway. Great. All right, welcome. Thanks, everyone. And Andrew, hello from Maine to Canada.
All right, hello.
How are things with you?
You shouldn't ask. I mean, they're always the same. Every day is the same. I don't go anywhere. Business is pretty good. I guess that's you know, we can count ourselves lucky is not exactly the word, but almost feeling like I could use a vacation. From what? Well, from being in one place, I guess.
You know, I think that's a really good point, is that from a mental health standpoint, it feels a little strange to take vacation when you're still staying in your home, but it's really important. I think it's probably more important now than ever to be able to actually remove yourself from the digitals during this time, if you can. But that said, and you know, this time has been extraordinary for so many reasons, but you kind of hit on it, Andrew, that, you know, for so many, this is a time of seeing unprecedented demand and trying to figure out how to meet this new surge in interest. And while others are in the opposite boat and trying to figure out how to generate interest, keep things going, and trying to figure out how to fill a funnel that is suddenly looking quite sparse. So I guess I'd kind of open it up to, how are you dealing with, if you're working with clients yourselves that have or experience both like the great things that are going on and also really struggling, and how you're balancing that work with clients? To anyone.
I'm happy to start. I mean, when it comes to struggling, there was a bit of a go around earlier, and I think a lot of people talked about a lot of hand holding, and depending on the types of clients that you have, and if your role and you're a fairly large organization, or you're very close to someone who's really, really struggling and they want to keep you around through that struggle. In our case, I think the struggling companies are really fairly chill, and they pause things, and you know, we left it there and we're there for them, but we know that their sector is off. It's shut off certain financial things, not all, and travel, and we know that we're just, if they need something small, we do it but basically we'll be ready when they come back. And for everyone else, it's been, you know, a situation of constant changing of conversion rates. Certain retail, certain basic goods have been surging, and if you were caught flat, you know, then you didn't get that profit to bank against potentially future slowdowns. And seeing players like Amazon exiting the auction, and many companies exiting the auction means like almost an unusually strong spend if you're not careful, or ROI so high that expectations get out of whack. So I think what we're seeing is, now that the surge is slowing, then we have to chase after that and be optimizing pretty regularly.
Yeah. Audience insights reporting has been kind of wild to look at. I mean, it is really just all over the place, with players coming in and out and up and down, and it's been fascinating. We have a great question from DT, and why don't we'll go around, give everyone a chance to weigh on this. $250 to spend. AJ, on LinkedIn, this might be, we're going to start with you actually, because you have $250. Where would you spend it right now? And I guess it doesn't actually have to be LinkedIn, but $250, not $250,000. $250. Where are you going to spend it?
Yeah, I wouldn't spend it on LinkedIn, most likely. That would get me like 25 clicks. Not going to get too much mileage there, but as alluded to, I think I would probably spend it on YouTube. YouTube's costs right now are incredible because of so many advertisers, both B2B and B2C, pulling out. And so I think that would really get you a lot. This is also a time where so many people are afraid of signing like large deals or long contracts. And YouTube is so much a top of the funnel type of platform. So yeah, I think I'd invest it there.
Great. Melissa.
Where would I spend $250? I would spend it to develop some content. I would get a writer, or I would get a video crew, and I would get some content put together, and then figure out how you can find the money to promote it later. But people lack content.
Great. Bill.
I would say, as my usual unhelpful answer, it depends. I mean, if you have the content, it's ready to go, you spend it on fuel. If you don't have the content, you spend 30% on content and 70% on fuel. Because there are a lot of people, like you talk to a typical creative shop, like a full serve agency, they'll take all your money and they'll build content, and there's no frickin' fuel because they make bigger margin on the content than they do on the fuel. So it depends. But I'm with AJ. I'm a huge fan of YouTube right now. I'm a huge fan of the socials because they're so depressed, and particularly if you're B2B right now, LinkedIn is huge because everybody's freaking out. And typically LinkedIn does really well if you're trying to reach marketers and salespeople, but it doesn't do so well reaching other constituencies because they're not looking for a job. Everybody's thinking about jobs right now and their resumes. So you get a lot of constituencies that aren't normally on LinkedIn who are on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn and YouTube, if you got the content. Otherwise, some on content, but I wouldn't blow it all on content.
All right, and Lisa.
I would say probably Facebook, and that is assuming that I have the content. I think that, you know, people are on social. We've had really great luck with B2B on social right now, on Facebook right now. The prices are very low, and even executives that we're targeting have a lot of extra time.
Great. And is that Facebook itself or the Facebook universe? Does that include Instagram or?
It depends on the product or service, but usually Facebook and not the Facebook universe unless it skews younger.
Great. All right. And Andrew, you have $250.
Well, that's right. Bearing that in mind, I'm thinking of hyper targeting that on Google Ads to a geo to a postal code. Thinking of examples like selling real estate or leasing property, something like that. Tried that on Facebook and poof, gone. So I'd say Google, well, in certain verticals, Facebook won't offer you that type geo-targeting in housing. That's discriminatory. So I think Google will allow it.
All right. We have some really, these are some good thoughts. Thoughts on Quora, Reddit specifically, but I'm also, I'll throw in Snapchat in there too. I know that's a little bit less from probably the B2B demographic, but just wondering if anyone's also using that. Quora, Reddit, thoughts on those channels.
Yeah, I just invested in Quora. I think it's such a cool platform from a user side, and so I really wanted to jump in and start using it on the paid side. I launched a new podcast about 4 months ago just about LinkedIn ads. And so what I did is any post that's in the topic about LinkedIn ads, my ad is showing up trying to get people who, if you're asking questions or reading answers about it, listening to my podcast episodes are probably a good fit. And that felt pretty targeted, not a ton of traffic, but I'm paying something like 31 cents a click from it. And so I'm a big fan, especially because I play so much in B2B. I can't really talk too much to Snapchat or others that aren't as much in B2B because I just haven't mentally explored them.
How about Reddit? Anyone using Reddit? All right. Anyone else using Quora?
We will probably start using Quora. It looks like it's the same intent as what we've seen over the years with certain websites on the GDN problem-solving sites. And they actually are my biggest concern, because then that'll break and it'll stop working, and GDN needs to kind of come back for some of that useful content. So I'd probably start there, and then if we rescued that, then I'd do the same on Quora.
Yeah, Quora's been interesting to watch develop. They have a bunch of ex-Google, Facebook folks on the ads product side, so they're trucking along. It's interesting. How about Pinterest? Is anyone doing anything with Pinterest?
We have over the years, not lately, but it's an organic bonanza. That's the problem when they turn up the ad or turn down the organic reach, then you're looking at a totally different cost equation. But yeah, something in design or something like a wedding related. There are a lot of uses for Pinterest, but I can't speak to the ROI when it's not free.
All right, and we have somebody asking about TikTok. Anyone dipping their toe into anyone on TikTok or watching TikTok? I'm addicted to TikTok. Don't go on it right now because we won't see you for another 4 hours. But if you have some time to burn, just hit that For You feed, and we'll come up for air. Bring some water and snacks on hand. It's highly addictive. All right, great. Where do you go? So somebody tool. What's the pricing on a landing page? Not a landing page. So not specific, but just generally from perspective. And landing pricing on landing pages. Anyone?
You're breaking up there, Ginny, but I think you were asking about the person who is asking, should they put the price of the tool on the page where they can sign up? Is that what you were asking? Yeah.
Correct.
My opinion, and this may just be my personal opinion, but it's also borne out by some data, is that you should put the price on there. I have found that the more upfront you are, the less unqualified leads you will get, because people will have no idea what your tool costs. They might think that it's a couple $100 and it's $20,000. And so you spend a lot of time trying to, get that lead, and then they find out it's $20,000. They're like, oh, I was looking for something that was 200. It just helps to weed out the people that aren't qualified and kind of give them ideas of what you're going to pay. And that has borne out in testing as well. So I'd be interested if others on the panel have a different opinion.
I'd agree with you in the 80% circumstance, Melissa, or definitely B2C and B2b. But if you're selling an Oracle database or an email app that is, you need a list size of more than 100K before it makes sense. If you communicate price to that constituency, they don't expect to see price. They're kind of expecting a discussion. But you still want to signal that, because what you don't want is people looking for MailChimp clogging up your sales funnel. So even if you don't have price, you communicate, hey, this is really well suited for the enterprise class or for scaling, or if you've got a list size beyond X, we're the one to talk to.
Excellent point. Yeah, absolutely. You're right. And a lot of those, the price is so variable depending on, what you're signing up for, that you can't even really put it on your page. So I agree with you, Bill. That makes sense.
And I think I'd back up both of you on this one. I made the quote unquote unpopular decision of publishing our agency's pricing. Simply, well, I hate as a consumer being jerked around, wondering like, oh, okay, I've got to fill out a form and hop on a phone with a sales rep before I can even find out if I'm in the ballpark. So we published our pricing, and what I've noticed, I'm sure we're getting fewer leads, but my time is, I'm the founder and the only sales guy. So my time is better spent because I'm hopping on the phone with people who most of the time they've decided, yeah, this pricing works for me. In Laura's question here, she asked specifically about displaying the price on the same page as where they sign up for the tool. I think as long as you have pricing, and I would say one of your menu items at the top, very easy to access, or even a message saying like starting from $20 a month or starting from $200 a month. If you had something like that, I don't think it needs to be on exactly the same page, especially because with a trial, you want the least amount of friction possible, and then let them try it out. And once they've realized that they're getting value out of your tool, that's when they can start exploring prices, and now they know what it's worth to them. So anyway, a little rambling there, but hopefully that helps.
Yeah, I mean, there are absolutely tons of examples to go by too. You can go to all the tools and software that you like and use, and we've got a new client that I think is hitting it perfectly. You have to go and look for the pricing. It's not on that page, but it's not a very far journey, and they have a wide range. You have the mid-range that they're going for, but then you have enterprise pricing, which is usually ask, or it's a different, and you don't list it. But I think, yeah, it doesn't hurt to list prices, and I don't think there's any one way. There's no ultimate landing page. There's no ultimate efficiency, because like you've all said, you want to dissuade, tire kickers from your funnel.
Yeah, and then I guess, one, if you can have, chat. If you really don't want to have pricing on your pages for competitive reasons, which is pretty much the only reason I can think of for not doing it, right? Because you're just putting up friction for what other reason? But having chat, having that available, at least so that you're not making somebody like submit a form and wait and get counted by a salesperson, and that, I guess I would think that through. But I guess I always go back to, as a user, what's the experience I want when I'm looking at something, trying to find a vendor, and time is valuable. How do I reduce as much friction as possible? For everyone on the line, do feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A module. I was just wondering, what kind of is the biggest surprise, lesson, takeaway that you think will stick with you going forward? That you've learned from this experience, whether on your own or through a client experience, that is going to sort of change your marketing behavior, marketing perspective going forward long term?
I've got a good answer on this one. I have two things that really kind of struck me during the whole COVID panic. First off, we had like 40% of our clients pause during that 2 weeks of panic, which was obviously very scary to me. And what I realized is we need to be as sticky as possible. So before then, we'd been sending out like a weekly report, and we give them a whole lot of pivot table level analysis. And we realized that's helpful for us in explaining, but it's not a resource that they're going to be able to forward to their boss. And so we rushed to roll out Data Studio dashboards that were updated every single day, so our clients can then show that to their VP or their CMO and actually follow progress along the way. And that was one of the things we did to make ourselves stickier, so that as our clients are going through and saying, okay, our budgets have been slashed, do we cut the agency? Do we cut the channel? When they see the data and the level of service that we're providing them, we've had several who said, hey, you know what, I'm going to cut someone else, my agency budget elsewhere, because we love working with you and we love this level of data. The other thing I realized is that I've never regretted the investment that I've made in content up until now. Being a guest on podcasts, doing joint webinars, producing our own podcast, all of these types of things, traveling to conferences to speak. These have all, over the last 5.5 years, shored us up to ensure that we have a constant stream of leads. And if those leads totally dried up and we lost 40% of our clients at the same time, I don't know that we would have a business still. So, it doesn't necessarily help right now, but invest in content, invest in things that are going to pay off over the next several years, not just tomorrow.
That's great. Anyone else have long-term lessons from this?
Well, I agree with AJ. I think, the more you can make yourself helpful and invaluable. I talked about that in my presentation, but I think as at least those of us on the agency side, if your agency is invaluable to clients, we've had situations with our clients where they work with multiple agencies. They've let everybody else go but us, because we're the ones that are providing the most valuable insights and the most valuable service for them. So they've kept us on when others have gone by the wayside or at least been paused. So the more that you can show those insights, to show that, you're getting them value, I think that goes a long way.
And I would second that from Melissa. Sorry, I don't have a photo up. I'll make sure the next conference I'll have that remedied. This is Lisa Meyer, but that is kind of where we try to play all the time. Where we're offering insights that they wouldn't necessarily have themselves, and so we're always trying to help them with their business in addition to helping them with their marketing, which is a very fine line, but it's an important element to help the companies understand we're thinking for them, for their money, for the best spend for their money. So they really appreciate that, and I think it has helped us save some clients that we might have otherwise lost during this time.
Jenny, and not hearing Jenny.
Oh, sorry. Is that better? Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Sorry, I'm having speaker challenges. I have just been so impressed by companies' ability to adapt and shift really, really quickly in ways that I think if you'd asked them 3 months ago or however long before we've been in this process, could you do this? They would have said, you're insane, no way, that would never be able to happen. Or, you've seen these companies have been digital transformation for the last 4 years, and all of a sudden they've been able to, squash those processes and transform within weeks. So I really think that kind of, it's exhausting, but people are going to have this sense of it doesn't need to take so long to get stuff done. We can do more than we thought we could. We can test new channels. We can try new content. We can do less with more in less time than we thought possible. So I think that's going to be really interesting. I do think people are going to need a break, but you know, these long decision cycles and processes, I think, are going to get shrunk. All right. This is sort of back to the pricing question, but when you literally are not allowed to show pricing, and so we talked a little bit about weeding out unwanted leads and traffic, but I guess maybe even from a broader perspective, how do you ensure that you're funneling the right people in and putting gates up with whether it's your content, your ads, and you know, good examples of how that process works?
I think if you have if you have an expensive piece of software, use the words that describe it, things like enterprise level, for your organization rather than your small business. If it is a small business level tool, use those words to talk about, talk to them like they are the business owner. Like small businesses, use examples on the page of clients who are who you're already working with, who are kind of in their level, and then they'll get to see if that's their peer group or not. And maybe even on your forms, if you're doing gated content, in the form you can ask, like, what is your company size? And that way you know how to score those leads. If they're in the right size of company who can afford, then you score those really high and follow up that way. And if they're less, trigger them an email sequence that just says, like, hey, here's what our pricing looks like. Wonder if you're in the market for this, or if we can recommend another tool. I think that kind of recommendation would go a long way.
Agreed. Perfect answer, AJ.
I'd like to think it starts with keywords. I know I'm not saying anything you don't already know, but in terms of targeting, the biggest problems in weeding come from, you know, this kind of being a little bit finicky about cost per lead. So wanting a low cost per lead when you want lead quality and real leads. So, you know, you start with the keywords, avoid sales pitches from publishers telling you to target a huge number of people and turning smart bidding on as if like somehow that's acquisition. All you're doing is finding just thousands of people who aren't targeted. But I mean, between proper keyword targeting, choosing more narrow keywords, exact matches, and all the negatives that would have to come if you were just throwing broader keywords out there. That's obvious, but that's the biggest problem you see. Oh, look, we have a $20 cost per lead. Wow, that's not the goal. The goal is obviously cost per, you know, closed sale.
Steve Hammer on Twitter put a question out about what's your biggest mistake you've seen in a either that you made or in an account that you've audited. And somebody said an adoption agency was getting 40% of its clicks to from dog adoptions, and they are a human baby adoption agency, but they neglected to negate dog. So it's the simple things that sometimes come and get you, right? Anyone else have any other thoughts on kind of the traffic filtering? All right. David, thanks for your question from somebody in here. So when companies are going through digital transformation, whether they're a new business or existing business that has had it kind of on the roadmap or just hearing about it, where would you suggest leadership start on that process? Anyone have any thoughts on that?
That sounds like a big company problem, when in fact it's also a small entrepreneur decision. So I don't solve enterprise level problems about giant companies digitally transforming. Many of my friends have tried to solve them for media agencies. Yeah, I'm sorry, newspaper companies. and all of that. It's a huge problem. But think about this. Think about there's a subset of people who are brave and want to embrace it, even if they're starting out maybe in their 30s or 40s, launching retail. And digital transformation comes from saying, I don't want these stores to even matter in 3 years. So that's a friend of mine. I think it's all about being 100% committed to your business model that is completely offline, is not, completely online. So those companies that are clinging to bricks and clicks, hey, it makes sense, of course. We have clients like that. But right now, we're just seeing it. We're seeing that retailers who are 70% offline, 30% online. I don't know, J.Crew might be a bad example. They might have had other problems. But we have companies that are 50-50 who right now are thriving. So yeah. I mean, the more online you go, the more digital you go, it seems that like the safer you are.
And I think, you know, so many times I've seen with retail that are omni-channel is that the digital is held back, and not just digital from the strictly e-commerce standpoint, but the way that digital can support the offline sales and drive traffic is that everyone gets in their attribution. I'm getting the credit for this. Where's my budget going? They can't take my budget. They're, you know, it's those siloing that turn into antagonistic kind of rivalries within the same company. So I think obviously this depends on what the context is of the company, but if you can look around your teams, whether it's, you know, you've got a digital team, what does that actually look like? Everyone should have digital ingrained in their team, whether they're, you know, strictly working from a retail location. Digital should flow into what you're doing. And help support your goals. So try kind of realigning that that whole mentality of kind of going back to the fundamentals of we're one company and breaking down silos, I think is, you know, to some extent from a leadership standpoint, kind of backing that out, where to start. And does anyone have any, like, there's just been so many interesting ways and big pivots and people that have been shifting in this, that whether it was people who were selling on Amazon and then Amazon stopped taking, you know, inventory, how to suddenly fulfill your orders, or your supply chain is disrupted, or from B2B, I guess, you know, what are some of the big challenges that on the B2B side you've been seeing, Melissa, from an operational standpoint?
Yeah, the biggest challenge has been, you know, product, you know, getting product in. Either they've got too much, they're overloaded and they can't offload, or in the case of medical, they can't make it stuff fast enough. One of our clients has had to shift dollars away from marketing to manufacturing because they can't keep up. So they've had to, you know, move all that away. A lot of it is just, I think a lot of B2B advertisers are finally realizing, hey, this online thing, you know, really can work, especially if our salespeople can't get out and sell in person right now. We've got to be online, and that we've been telling them that for 8 years or whatever. So it's kind of a kick in the butt. It's like a lot of things, you know, we're remote working. There's all these companies that say, we can't do remote work. You know, people, they need to be in the office. And then now all of a sudden they're realizing, oh, maybe they don't need to be in the office. This is working just fine. It's kind of the same way with B2B and getting more into the, you know, the digital ecospace. This has forced people to realize that they can do things differently.
Yeah.
It's interesting because this is happening in vertical after vertical. So one good question for a larger organization to ask might be, if I look at a smaller business or a whole sector that's made up of smaller proprietors, and see that they've been digitally transforming themselves by adopting software that they never had before. That's been a number of our clients. There's one called Clio in legal practice management that ran the table on all these small to mid-sized law firms needing a new platform that wasn't from 1989. And we're seeing it in event planning. And a contractor came to my house to give me a landscaping quote, and another contractor came to my house to give me a landscaping quote. The one that uses the standard new quoting software, it's got some cute name that makes it sound like you're building stuff. That's the one that got the job because the quote is detailed and he knows how to use software, and he's not bullshitting me, basically. So if these kinds of players are going 180 from how they used to do it, then there must be tools that every organization, even larger organizations, should be adopting immediately. And somebody's full-time job should probably be to evaluate how to deploy them, best deploy them.
Right. We have a big question, the death of the cookie, and how the browsers changing how they're treating cookies is going to, is currently and will continue to, as Chrome moves in this direction, to affect targeting, tracking, and the ecosystem from a whole perspective. So how are you all thinking about tracking and attribution without third-party cookies?
So I sure think that this is going to drive people directly to the platforms. I don't see a business model that's viable yet. I'm sure people are working on it, but for companies like AdRoll, I just don't know how they're going to be able to function in that world with their current model. So we still all need to use retargeting. And so I think that means we're going to all go directly to Facebook and have a retargeting campaign, directly to Google, have it directly to LinkedIn even. And I think that's going to be really important. The other thing is that your site, you should be thinking right now as marketers, how do we create a login experience? How do we incentivize people to log in with us? Because if a cookie is behind a login, whether it's first party or third party, it's going to be trusted. And so the chances of your data being accurate, if your customer gets behind a login, are going to be much, much higher, and you should see more accuracy in your reporting. So I would be thinking about that now. What sort of login experience, member experience can we create so that our tracking is still very valuable?
Yeah, and that gets into ABM too, right? Like ABM that's where a lot of this is going to go. You don't have these third-party cookies anymore, and all of our clients are asking us about ABM now. Even though it's really been around for a long time, it's like the new hot thing because of the cookies going away. So for those advertisers that are already doing it, they're way ahead of the game, and you should start looking at that if you're not already.
Well, ABM's been around, exactly, Melissa, for a distressingly long time. It's just, some jobbo 5 years ago decided to make a career for themselves by renaming it.
Yeah.
It's just a subset of retargeting to a list.
Yep. It's just custom audiences, but that's
right.
The buzzword of du jour.
But I guess you have to name things differently if you're selling them to salespeople or helping marketing do something to like throw a sop to the salespeople and keep them happy. But it works. But yeah, the login thing I think is a great idea, AJ, particularly if you can have content that's compelling for it, and then make the login easy. I mean, make the login as much as possible. Use your existing Facebook or LinkedIn login, and then we get additional data about that login too.
Yeah, and I know there's a whole lot being done with deterministic IP data and matching device IDs by a whole bunch of ad tech companies. But I think there's going to be a lot of disruption in this realm, and to some extent, it's still so much on the horizon that the actual fallout will be we have yet to see. But I think, to everyone's point, first party data is going to be just more and more and more important. And any way that you can build audiences and own your audiences is going to be critical. Anyone else have any thoughts on that? And Lisa, I don't want to leave you out. Do you have any?
No, I agree with what AJ was saying, though. I think that's the path that we're trying to take.
And I'll just pile on to what Jenny said. When you were talking about device IDs, it's really important to understand that the majority of the effect is going to come from desktop traffic because device ID was built right into all of our mobile devices, that entire ecosystem. So mobile won't be disrupted all that much. So yeah, I mean, be thinking about what your mobile experience looks like. Pay attention to how much of your mix is mobile versus desktop, because the desktop is where we're going to lose functionality and we're going to lose granularity in our reporting. So if you're a site that doesn't have a whole lot of desktop traffic to begin with, and the natural flow is going towards a higher share of mobile, then maybe you don't have to be as afraid as, I don't know, someone like us who has like 80% mobile or 80% desktop.
Yeah, and it also, just from a funnel perspective, I don't know if you're starting to think about that differently in terms of how important upper funnel is going to be to start building those engagements with customers, or are you really just going to focus on the cart and get that customer data at the cart? I don't know, and I don't have answers to that, but I do think that's kind of interesting to start thinking about from a sort of funnel distribution perspective. All right. Anyone have any final closing thoughts or questions for other panelists?
I'll throw out there, Simon Poulton has written some great articles for Search Engine Land. He is my go-to on the whole cookie situation. He doesn't view it as gravely as I do. His outlook on it is, yeah, we'll lose granularity and tracking, but it's going to be business as usual otherwise. But he'd be a fantastic one to follow. Simon Poulton, Poulton.
Yes, great. He is, he's terrific. He's at WPromote, and he is just a great guy to chat with. So if you chat with him live, he has a great accent. He's from New Zealand, so. That's a great point. And anything else? Anyone have any other big takeaways? We've had so much information today, so it's been great. All right. Thank you, everyone. Terrific. David, I'll turn things back over to you, the Grand MC.
Is my mic on?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So thank you, everyone. Thank you especially to the intelligent and attractive speakers and panelists today. That's right, AJ, I'm looking at you. So to all the attendees, we have saved some of the best for last. Tomorrow we've got Aaron Levy of Tenuity. We've got the impresario of Ad World Experience, Gianpaolo LaRusso, Frederic Valles from Optimizer, Perna Vergi from Microsoft, and then we'll have Nava Hopkins back from Hennessy to participate in the Q&A. And don't forget about the happy hour tomorrow night. Not tomorrow night, maybe for some Europeans and elsewhere on the globe, but tomorrow at the end of the Q&A, those attendees that want to hang around and chat with the speakers and panelists and maybe some of the other board members are welcome to do so. We did something similar this morning and had an open coffee experience, and that was a lot of fun. So even if you don't want to drink with us, you're welcome to participate. So thanks again, everybody. Thanks, Jenny, for a great job today.
Yeah, thanks Jenny. Thanks, David.
Thanks, everybody. It was great.
Excellent job, everybody.
Adios.
Yes.
Bye.
Great job. Bye. Take care. Bye-bye.